Chapter 246. What's wrong? Shilan could not help but ask softly when she saw Chu Hen staring at her palm. Chu Hen quickly withdrew his thoughts and shook his head. He smiled and said, "It's nothing. Instructor, please continue. What are the 7 star souls?" The 7 star souls are the treasures of the 7 souls ancient kingdom. The reason why the kingdom was able to survive for thousands of years is because of the 7 star souls. Shilan paused for a moment before she continued. The 7 star souls are 7 star pearls, also known as star soul pearls. Every star soul pearl was a top-grade saint artifact. Each star soul pearl can communicate with the corresponding star energy. Once all 7 star soul pearls are gathered, their power is comparable to a sacred weapon. By communicating with the 7 star souls and borrowing the power of heaven and earth, they can overturn mountains and fill oceans and sweep through the world. The 7 star souls are 7 sacred weapons. When all 7 star souls are gathered, they are comparable to sacred weapons. Gasp! After listening to Shilan's explanation, Chu Hen could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. He could not help but narrow his eyes. By communicating with the 7 star souls and borrowing the power of heaven and earth, they can overturn mountains and fill oceans and sweep through the world. What kind of terrifying power is this? What happened next? Chu Hen became even more interested as he stared curiously at Shilan's beautiful face. Shilan shook her head and said with a sigh. Previously, the fact that the 7 souls ancient kingdom possesses the 7 star souls has always been a top secret. However, there is no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. This shocking secret was eventually leaked out. After that, various forces that had designs on the 7 soul pearls came to the 7 souls ancient kingdom after hearing the news. Any sacred weapon could cause tens of thousands of people to fight for it, causing blood to flow everywhere. Not to mention a high-grade treasure like the 7 star souls. The 7 star souls were able to keep the 7 souls ancient kingdom going for thousands of years. One could imagine how attractive it was. The news of the 7 star souls caused a stir in the eastern region. Many forces inside and outside of the 100 Kingdoms province swarmed over, and the 7 souls ancient kingdom instantly became the target of public criticism. Among the many forces that came to fight, there were many powerful sects and clans. The 7 souls ancient kingdom was soon besieged from all sides. Of the 7 star soul pearls, some were taken away and some were lost. Having lost the 7 star soul pearls, the 7 souls ancient kingdom suffered a heavy blow. Thereafter, the various empires of the 100 Nations Prefecture took advantage of the 7 spirits ancient kingdom's weakness to launch a large-scale attack, splitting the former Overlord Empire among themselves. A dynasty that had been passed down for thousands of years could not escape the fate of collapse. With the resources they had plundered from the 7 souls ancient kingdom, the Sacred Star Dynasty, Heaven Net Dynasty, Misty Wind Dynasty, Flame Shadow Dynasty, Boulder Dynasty, and the Sword Dynasty rapidly rose to power. In just a short period of over 200 years, it had grown from a mid-tier empire to an overlord. Now that 200 years had passed, the 7 souls ancient kingdom had become history. The 6 dynasties were still fighting for the right to manage the resources of the ruins that they had yet to fully obtain. This could be considered as a great sorrow. After listening to Shilan's story, Chu Hen's heart could not calm down for a long time. This was the first time he had such a detailed understanding of the history of the 7 souls ancient kingdom. Once again, the truth proved that the greed of the human heart was terrifying. At the same time, it also showed that no matter how good a treasure was, it still required sufficient strength to protect it. Otherwise, it would only bring about a disaster. So who has the 7 star soul pearls now? Chu Hen casually asked. The whereabouts of the Dubhe star soul pearl and the Merak star soul pearl are unknown. It's said that they've already drifted to the central region. There are many different opinions about the truth. As for the other 5 star soul pearls, They're all in the possession of some colossus and extraordinary powers. Shilan did not intend to explain the matter to Chu Hen in detail. In her opinion, the current Chu Hen was not qualified to come into contact with such things. Chu Hen exclaimed and shook his head. At the same time, he was very surprised that teacher Shilan knew so much. In the vast capital city, not many people would know as much as Shilan. This made Chu Hen curious about Shilan's true identity. "Teacher, you're not from the Sacred Star Empire, are you?" Chu Hen asked tentatively. Shilan shook her head gently, but did not offer any further explanation. "It's getting late. Go back and get ready. The Heaven List competition of the 6 nations will definitely be an extremely dangerous battle." "Yes." Chu Hen nodded his head, and a bit of seriousness emerged between his brows. "Also," Shilan looked at Chu Hen attentively and said softly, "Promise me that you will come back safely." Chu Hen's heart warmed when he saw the sincere concern in Shilan's eyes. He then promised seriously, "Yes, I promise I won't let you down." After leaving the maple forest with Shilan, the two of them went their separate ways. Chu Hen returned to his residence and simply said goodbye to Mu Feng and Lei Zhen before closing the door. Tomorrow was the day of the Heaven List competition. Chu Hen was very clear that in comparison, the previous All-Academy Martial Competition's Earth ranking battle could be said to be a small fight in front of the 6-nation struggle. What kind of competition would the top geniuses of the 6 great empires perform? What's the biggest secret of the Sacred Star Empire? Chu Hen murmured softly as he stared at the 7 obscure stars in the palm of his left hand. Then, with a thought, a ball of extremely restless energy was released from the palm of his left hand. Buzz buzz, the 7 stars emitted a bright luster as a shocking and powerful energy gathered in Chu Hen's hand. It felt like a volcano that had been brewing for a long time was about to erupt. He remembered that when he was in St. Bell City, Chu Hen almost destroyed his house because he couldn't control this strange power. The houses here were far from being as sturdy as St. Bell City, so Chu Hen didn't dare to try it here. "Forget it. Let's prepare for the Heaven List competition tomorrow." Immediately, Chu Hen dispersed the power in his palm. Then, he sat upright on the bed and entered a meditative state to adjust his cultivation. The sun and the moon rotated. In the blink of an eye, a night flew by. When the gorgeous morning glow penetrated the thick clouds and shone on the ground, the entire imperial city was shrouded in a dense mist. Imperial Martial Academy. On one of the cultivation platforms, Huang Fuliang, who was sitting on the highest platform, opened his eyes. 2 sharp sword-like rays of light shot out. Then, Huang Fuliang stood up and waved his sleeves. A piercingly cold aura swept out from his body. Fine cracks spread out from under Huang Fuliang's feet like a spider web. The corner of his mouth curled up into a confident smile. "Heaven List competition, I, Huang Fuliang, am coming. Giant Elephant Martial House." Swoosh! Along with a few fluttering leaves, a young man flashed down from a large tree. He stretched his body and a lazy smile hung on his handsome face. "Is this day finally coming? I, Lin Yuan, am coming." At the same time, Bright Moon Academy's Su Rong, Tifeng Province's Situ Feng, Lingxi Martial House's Wenye, and other top geniuses from various martial houses. All of them were ready to go. Luo Mengchang, Long Xuanshuang, Long Qingyang, Wei Qinfan, Yao Zhan, Xin Yunxi, and the other geniuses had also adjusted themselves to their best state. The 6 nations battle, the Heaven List competition. This was a battle that only happened once every 50 years. The ruins of the 7 Souls' ancient kingdom had once again stirred up a storm. Woo! A melodious morning call echoed from the highest city wall of the imperial city. Tensei Prefecture. Creak. The door that had been tightly shut for a day opened, and a high-spirited, handsome young man stepped out of the room. Chu Hen raised his head and looked at the sky of the 9 heavens that was filled with the morning glow. A pair of star-like eyes flickered with a resplendent luster. Heaven List Competition. I, Chu Hen, am coming. Tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Festival. I wish my brothers a happy Mid-Autumn Festival and a family reunion. Eat more mooncakes and everything will be perfect. I have to go back to my hometown to reunite with my family on the Mid-Autumn Festival. I've been away for a year, and I'm a little homesick. I'll have to take the train for more than 20 hours, so tomorrow's update will be late. I hope my brothers can forgive me. Today's 3 chapters were written overnight by me, and I've put them in the storage box. After all, I don't dare to write carelessly at a critical moment. Every plot needs to be analyzed, so it's hard to speed up. I'm already on the train, and I'll start writing when I get home tomorrow. Chapter 247. The Imperial City. The square in front of the Golden Imperial Palace was bustling with noise. Many of the students and instructors of the 31 high-ranked martial houses had gathered here to cheer and encourage the heaven-ranking disciples of their respective martial houses. Warriors wearing majestic battle armor and holding sharp spears stood around the square. This kind of solemn aura caused everyone to not dare to be too rash and make too much noise while interacting with each other. Emperor Huang Fu Hao, Regent Huang Fu Qing, and all the civil and military officials of the imperial court were gathered on the highest platform of the Golden Imperial Codex's entrance. The supreme dignity of an empire was displayed here. Under the tall and wide platform, 100 top geniuses from the 31 academies stood in an orderly manner at the center of the square. The 5 people standing at the front were Huang Fuliang, Lin Yuan, Su Rong, Situ Feng, Wenye Chu Hen, Luo Mingshang, Long Xuanshuang, Long Qingyang Wei Zhong, and the other geniuses all had extraordinary auras. Standing in front of everyone, they were like dazzling stars that attracted people's attention. At this moment, every heaven-ranking disciple was holding a light purple jade pendant in their hands. The jade pendant was threaded with golden tassels and was warm to the touch. The jade body was carved with exquisite patterns. In the middle of the patterns there were 2 clear words, Sacred Star. What you are holding in your hands is a token that represents the Sacred Star team. Huang Fu Qing took a few steps forward. Her cold voice was filled with the royal aura that made people palpitate. She glanced at the 100 top geniuses in front of her and continued, in the hands of the heaven-ranking members of the other 5 empires, they are also holding tokens that represent their empires. Boom! As soon as Huang Fu Qing finished speaking, the deafening sound of cannons exploded in the sky above the imperial city. In the direction of the city gate, fireworks filled the sky. The colorful rain of flowers was like a rainbow sprinkling down from the sky. A wide red carpet extended from the gate of the imperial city to the center of the square. Then, the loud voice of the imperial city's guards sounded. The Misty Wind Empire's heaven-ranking team has arrived. Along with the loud and clear voice, a team of 100 geniuses passed through the grand and tall city gate and walked on the red carpet towards the plaza. The appearance of the Windy Mist Empire immediately attracted everyone's attention. The leader of the group was a woman dressed in blue. She looked abnormally weak and her watery eyes gave off a delicate and pitiful feeling. But in reality that was not the case. This woman was called Lu Qi, and she was the number 1 person in the Misty Dynasty's group that possessed the Water Soul Profound Body. Lin Yuan rubbed his chin and said with an interested smile, "She really looks delicate and cute. Even I can't help but want to protect her." Beside him, Su Rong smiled indifferently, a cold glint flashing across her beautiful eyes. "If you really think that way, I can guarantee that you won't even have time to cry when the time comes. The scary thing about this woman is that she has an innocent face." Lin Yuan smiled and didn't comment on this. After all, everyone had long heard of Lu Qi's terrifying abilities. Among the younger generation of the Misty Wind Dynasty, almost everyone was fearful and in awe of Lu Qi. When the Windy Mist Empire's team walked over, the sound of cannon salutes shook heaven and earth again. Along with the fireworks that filled the sky, teams with extraordinary auras appeared in front of everyone in an orderly manner. The Boulder Dynasty's Heaven Ranking Team has arrived. The Flame Shadow Dynasty's Heaven Ranking Team has arrived. The Sword Dynasty's Heaven Ranking Team has arrived. The 3 consecutive introductions that were as loud as thunder caused everyone gathered in the Imperial City's plaza to have an expectant and solemn expression on their faces. In particular, they were even more curious about the core members of the teams led by the various dynasties. The leader of the Boulder Dynasty's team, Qi Ting, had the appearance of a burly man who was almost 2 meters tall. He had thick eyebrows, big eyes, a square mouth, and a straight nose. His entire body was filled with explosive muscles. Qi Ting, who possessed the Golden Sand Profound Body, was an extremely powerful figure in both offense and defense. Compared to Lu Qi, who had an innocent face, Qi Ting was a super difficult opponent to deal with. The leader of the Flame Shadow Dynasty's team, Pang Ao, had a head of fiery red short hair. Just like his name, he revealed an undisguised arrogance between his eyebrows. The limit of his bloodline was the demonic fire body. As for the leader of the Sword Dynasty's team, his name was Qi Ningxiao. He was a monster who possessed the limit of the heavenly sword body. In terms of arrogance, Qi Ningxiao was not inferior to Pang Ao. Although his name had the word Xiao in it, everyone knew that he did not like to smile. The invisible sword aura that was revealed in his every move caused people to be fearful and keep a respectful distance from him. One by one, the geniuses from various countries passed through the city gate and stepped onto the red carpet. They were all heroic and full of youthful vigor. At this moment, the 5th team appeared in front of everyone. The Heaven Ranking Team of the Tianluo Dynasty has arrived. Boom! The cannons saluted and the fireworks were like rain. Everyone present was startled, and their gazes swept towards the last genius team in unison. The Tianluo Dynasty was the first dynasty to win the Heaven Ranking Tournament. Similar to the Sacred Star Dynasty, it had gathered many different types of blood limit physique. Unlike the other 4 dynasties, the blood limit physiques were relatively concentrated. Of course, the reason why the Tianluo Dynasty's team was so eye-catching, other than the fact that they had won the championship before, it was also because the lineup of the Tianluo Dynasty's team was especially strong this year. I heard that the Tianluo Dynasty's team has a genius inscription master from St. Bell City, Lei Yuan. There's also the Ghost Spear King's direct disciple, Yi Wu Gui. That's right, I heard about it too. However, the most important person is their team leader, Yi Wu Gui. Yes, Yi Wu Gui is definitely a super monster. Only Huang Fuliang from the Sacred Star Dynasty can compete with him. High-level inscription master, Lei Yuan. Ghost Spear King's direct disciple, Yi Wu Gui. And the Wind Ghost Clan's Yi Wu Gui, who possessed the Wind Ghost body. This lineup had indeed attracted the attention of the Tianluo Dynasty this year. Under the gazes of the crowd, the Tianluo Dynasty's team approached from afar. Even Chu Hen from the Sacred Star Dynasty's team could not help but narrow his eyes. His gaze was somewhat solemn as he looked at the leader of the Tianluo Dynasty's team. It was a young man with a devilishly handsome face. He was dressed in a gorgeous dark red robe, and his slightly raised lips were so bright that they looked like they were stained with blood. Demonic charm. This was Chu Hen's first impression of Yi Wu Gui. Yi Wu Gui's indifferent smile carried a hint of playfulness. This playfulness revealed his confidence in his own strength. In terms of aura, Yi Wu Gui was indeed not inferior to Sacred Star Huang Fuliang. Behind Yi Wu Gui were Yi Wu Gui, Lei Yuan and the few people that Chu Hen had met at the Rising Cloud Merchant House. Is it really Lei Yuan? What Lei Zhen and Lei Li said is true. He really came back? Outside the plaza stood a group of people from the St. Bell City tribe. When they saw Lei Yuan from the Tianluo Dynasty's team, they were shocked and astonished. However, after the initial shock, it was replaced by indignation. This was because Lei Yuan's gaze had never landed on the crowd from St. Bell City. Even when he walked past them, he did not spare them a glance. In other words, Lei Yuan had indeed abandoned them and Saint Bell City. A senior inscription master who represented the Tianluo dynasty in the Heaven List tournament of the Six Nations. How awe-inspiring was this! How much attention was paid to him! However, Lei Yuan's words had completely chilled the hearts of everyone in Saint Bell City. Over the years since he left Saint Bell City, he seemed to have forgotten the way back. Very soon, the top geniuses of Misty Wind, Giant Cliff, Flame Shadow, Heaven Net, and Sword Dynasty arrived at the plaza. They stood on the plaza in front of the throne room, side by side with the Sacred Star Empire. Lu Qi of the Misty Wind Dynasty. Gigantic Cliff Empire, Qi-Ting. Flame Shadow Empire, Peng Ao. Sword Dynasty, Qin Ingshao. Tianluo Dynasty, Yi Wu Gui. Greetings to the Sacred Star Emperor. The geniuses of the 5 great empires bowed one after another. Their majestic aura swept across the entire plaza. Thanks to Brother Zhang 371-6016 for his 1888 tip. I got off the train at around 2 p.m. and arrived home around 3 p.m. I hurriedly took a shower and began to write. I finally finished a chapter. I'll first apologize to my brothers and sincerely wish them a happy Mid-Autumn festival. I'm going to Grandma's house tonight, so I'm not sure how many chapters one can update. If I'm missing chapters, I'll definitely make it up tomorrow or the day after. Chapter 248. Greetings, Sacred Star Monarch Lu Qi, Qi-Ting, Peng Ao, Qin Ingshao, and Knight Not Cunning led their respective heaven-ranking teams and bowed to the Sacred Star Monarch. The grand and majestic scene was captivating. Everyone, please rise. Monarch Huangfu Hao raised his right hand and said, "Thank you, Sacred Star Monarch." The geniuses of the various kingdoms stood up in unison. The top geniuses of the 6 dynasties gathered on the square. Qi-Ting, Peng Ao, and Qin Ingshao looked at the leader of the Sacred Star Monarch team, Huangfu Liang, with interest. However, the playful expression between Huang Fuliang's brows was especially strong. He looked back at the few of them with a slightly mocking gaze. In the end, his gaze landed on Tianluo Bugui. Knight Not Cunning was wearing a luxurious red robe and had a demonic aura. The faint smile on his face gave off a faint demonic charm. Knight Not Cunning glanced at Huang Fu Liang with a hint of frivolity in his eyes. Huang Fu Liang sneered and replied with disdain. Before the 6 empires' battle of the heavenly ranking had even begun, the geniuses from different empires were already sparking with each other. Of course, it would be abnormal if they were to get along peacefully. Only when conflicts broke out would the heaven-ranking competition between the 6 kingdoms be more anticipated. Chu Hen, who was in the Sacred Star Monarch team, squinted his eyes as he carefully observed the top geniuses from the other 5 dynasties. They were all monstrous geniuses who possessed the mystic physique bloodline limit, although in terms of the strength of the bloodline limit, there was not a single person who could be mentioned on the same level as Chu Hen. But in the end there was still that sentence. No matter how strong the power of the bloodline was, it still needed strength as a foundation. There were a total of 600 top geniuses here, and Chu Hen could only be considered as above average. There were quite a number of people who were very troublesome for him to deal with. The heaven-ranking competition is about to begin. I will briefly explain the rules of the competition. Huang Fuqing's cold voice pulled everyone back from their thoughts. Everyone's gaze fell on the other party. Huang Fuqing raised her beautiful eyes and opened her red lips slightly. The Heaven List competition of the 6 nations will be held in the ruins of the 7 Souls' ancient kingdom. The contestants will arrive at the competition area via the teleportation array. The location of the preliminary round. The crowd around the square couldn't help but make noises. If there was a preliminary round, then there would naturally be a final round. The Heaven List battle was indeed extraordinary. The contestants who enter the preliminaries will be scattered in different places. In other words, at the beginning, each of you was acting alone. Everyone nodded in agreement. After all, if 600 top geniuses were to gather together at the beginning, wouldn't it become a super chaotic battle? That kind of chaotic scene really couldn't reflect the individual abilities of the outstanding genius student. However, there were also disadvantages to acting alone. When encountering an opponent who was stronger than him without the help of his companions, the outcome was obvious. As for the rules of the preliminary round, to put it simply, it's a battle for tokens. Battle for tokens? Many geniuses from the Sacred Star team were stunned. They lowered their heads and looked at the purple jade pendant with golden tassels in their hands. On the exquisite pattern, there were 2 majestic words, Heavenly Star. Chu Hen gently stroked the jade pendant with his thumb and felt a faint warmth. The geniuses from the other 5 dynasties also had tokens that represented their countries. The so-called keepsake scramble is to snatch the keepsake in the hands of others. 2 months later, we'll gather at the top of the Sky Gorge platform. Anyone who has 6 tokens will be able to enter the finals. Huang Fuqing paused for a moment before she continued. In other words, only 100 people can pass the preliminary round and enter the finals. Wow, the entire square was in an uproar. 600 top geniuses meant 600 tokens. Only those who had collected 6 tokens would have the right to enter the finals. The elimination rate in the first round was still very high, and it was absolutely impossible for it to reach 100. This probability was extremely small. After all, it was hard to guarantee that during the preliminary round, the token would be lost, or that no one would reach the standard of 6 tokens. Thinking about it carefully, the difficulty of the Heaven List battle was much more difficult. Does anyone else have any questions? Huang Fuqing asked coldly. May I ask your highness? Yi Wu Gui from the Tianluo dynasty team raised his hand slightly and said, during the competition, can we use any means to defeat or kill our opponents? As the direct disciple of the Ghost Spear King, Yi Wu Gui's question made people shudder. Huang Fuqing's expression did not change at all. She replied calmly, yes, during the preliminary round, you can use any means to obtain tokens from others. What are the rules of the finals? We'll talk about it after you advance. Then I'll borrow the regent's priceless advice. I'll definitely appear in the finals. Yi Wu Gui's happy laughter made many people from the Sacred Star dynasty frown. It was really rude of him to speak to Huang Fuqing in such a tone. However, Huang Fuqing was not dissatisfied. She looked back at Emperor Huang Fuhao, who understood and nodded. He stepped forward and said, I hereby announce that the Heaven List battle of the 6 nations begins now. Wu, a melodious and majestic horn sound reverberated in the sky above the imperial city. In the next moment, more than a dozen masked elites from the dark troop of the royal family flashed to the square and distributed themselves around the square. Teleportation portal, get ready! The man wearing a silver mask shouted. Then, more than a dozen elites from the dark troop worked together to launch a complicated hand sign. Surging true inner force continuously surged from their bodies. Boom! A piercingly cold wind suddenly blew, and chaotic airflow spread in all directions. Along with an extremely restless and violent energy wave, crisscrossing silver arcs blossomed under the feet of the Heaven List contestants of the 6 nations. The dazzling silver runes spread wantonly and formed a huge teleportation portal under the feet of the 600 geniuses. Buzz! Soon after, countless golden light beams soared into the sky. The endless light beams directly enveloped the geniuses of the 6 nations, causing the world to lose its color. Wind and clouds surged in the sky, as if a thunderstorm was about to descend. Contestants, please get ready. The teleportation portal is about to be activated. The silver-masked expert from the dark troop said in a deep voice. The hearts of the geniuses in the portal trembled. While they were all excited, their eyes flashed with solemnity. Chu Hen looked around at Long Qingyang, Long Xuanshuang, Yu Chenyu and the rest, who were all looking at each other encouragingly. Third brother, be careful and focus on your safety. Long Qingyang reminded. Yes, I know, big brother, Chu Hen replied. Long Xuanshuang replied in a gentle voice, Leave a mark along the way so that it'll be easier for you to rendezvous with us. Chu Hen nodded. Not a bad idea. The geniuses from the other 5 empires also had a simple exchange. Many of the instructors and students from the various martial houses were also cheering one after another. Huang Fuliang will win. Huang Fuliang is the strongest. Lin Yuan, Lin Yuan. Serong, Serong. Senior brother Chu Hen, do your best. Chu Hen, don't tell anyone that I know you if you don't make it to the finals. Mu Feng, Li Hui and the rest shouted at the top of their lungs. Big brother Chu Hen, do your best. Yi Yao from the Emperor Wind Martial House also clapped her small hands and said loudly. She had a faint smile on her face and a pair of quick-witted eyes, looking very cute. Big sister, do your best too. The crowd cheered and cheered, their momentum soaring into the sky. Chu Hen turned around to look at his friends, then nodded at Xilan and Huang Fuqing, communicating with their eyes. Of course, in the eyes of most of the people present, the main characters of the heaven-ranking battle of the 6 nations were naturally Huang Fuliang, Lu Qi, Pang Ao, Qi Ting, Qin Yingxiao, and Yi Bugui, as well as many other famous geniuses like Lin Yuan, Su Rong, and Yi Wugui. The eyes of the 6 of them were filled with determination. At the same time, confident smiles filled their faces. However, at this moment, Wei Qingfan, Ren Han, Wei Zhong and the others all cast a cold and sinister gaze at Chu Hen. Perhaps to them, this wasn't just a 6 nations heaven list tournament. Activate the teleportation array. Rumble! The ground beneath everyone's feet faintly trembled, and the golden light beam that enveloped the geniuses became even more dazzling. Then, the geniuses in the array felt the world spin as a tremendous tearing force dragged them towards another space. In an instant, the startling light beam shot towards the sky above the imperial city. Hua! A dazzling white light flashed in front of everyone's eyes, and a rapid airflow spread out. In the next second, the geniuses in the center of the square all disappeared. The 6 Nations Heaven List Tournament had begun. Chapter 249. The 6 Nations Battle Royale had begun. This was an ancient kingdom ruins that had been abandoned for hundreds of years. It was a vast wilderness, surrounded by deep mountains and broken walls. Black birds that were entrenched in old trees let out hoarse cries. Ancient cities that had been eroded by wind and rain gave off a desolate aura. However, there seemed to be a mysterious power that no one knew existed in these ancient and desolate ruins. The 7 Spirits' ancient kingdom was an ancient dynasty that had been passed down for thousands of years. A storm was about to break out again in this peaceful place. Whoosh! A few fallen leaves rustled and fell to the ground. In the dense forest, a blurry shadow shuttled through the forest like a ghost, then steadily landed on a tree trunk. He lifted his head to look at the sky that was covered by the lush branches, revealing a handsome and determined face. "It's been 4 hours." Chu Hen's eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself. He had been in the 7 Spirits' ancient kingdom ruins for 4 hours and had yet to encounter a single person. Not only did this kind of tranquil atmosphere not cause Chu Hen's state of mind to become tranquil, it instead made him even more cautious. How big was the 7 Spirits' ancient kingdom? Chu Hen had no idea. Of course, the Sacred Star Empire would definitely not scatter everyone across the entire 7 Spirits' ancient kingdom. That would be too big. Not to mention 2 months, even 2 years would not be enough to end the Sky List tournament. Logically speaking, the distribution of participants from each nation would most likely be in the center of the 7 Spirits' ancient kingdom. He believed that while he was searching for others, others were also searching for him. The Heaven List tournament is different from the Earth List tournament in the All Academy Martial Arts competition. I need to be more careful. Chu Hen casually drew a vertical mark on the tree trunk, then jumped down from the tree trunk. This mark was the signal that he had agreed with Long Qingyang and Long Xuanshuang. After all, it would be better if they could gather together during such a tournament. Chu Hen walked through the forest, causing rustling sounds. Suddenly, Chu Hen stopped in his tracks, and two cold rays of light flashed in the corner of his eyes. Hee, I've been discovered. Along with a complacent strange laughter, a dangerous aura suddenly came from a certain side of the forest. Earth-sinking technique. Rumble. In an instant the ground shook violently. Before Chu Hen could react, the ground under his feet, which was about 5 meters wide, directly sank down. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen had descended into a hole that was more than 10 meters deep, surrounded by a thick layer of soil. It was as if he had fallen into a dry well. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly, but he didn't immediately jump out. Right now, that person was right above him. If he were to jump up, that person would not hesitate to give him a fatal blow. Let me see which little lamb you caught. Then, a young man with a complacent smile appeared at the edge of the area above. He looked down at Chu Hen, who was in the pit. From the other party's clothes and the power he used, it could be determined that he was from the Rock Empire. Oh, so it's the prey of the Sacred Star Empire. Not bad, not bad. Even though he was trapped by the other party's trap, Chu Hen's face did not show any signs of panic. He said calmly, I'll give you the token and you'll spare my life. You're scared, silly? The man sneered disdainfully, but at this moment, he was very confident. He stretched out his right hand and said, Give it. Without any hesitation, Chu Hen took out a jade pendant that emitted a purple luster. Seeing this jade pendant, the smile on the face of the man from the Rock Empire became even more complacent. Ta! Chu Hen flicked his finger, and the jade pendant directly turned into a beam of light and flew up. The man from the Rock Empire reached out to grab the token without hesitation. However, at this moment, a fierce light burst out from Chu Hen's eyes. Xiao! With a xiao sound, Chu Hen's toes touched the ground, and his entire body shot out like an arrow. The rapid wind-breaking momentum was abnormally fast and violent, and a black blade suddenly appeared in his hand. The man from the Rock Empire was slightly startled, and hurriedly raised his palm to attack Chu Hen. Bastard, you're courting death. Humph! A disdainful sneer appeared on Chu Hen's face. The limitless tooth swung out, and the shadow of the saber was like a ray of light, directly flashing through the air. Hiss! A dozen meters long silver crescent slashed down vertically. The pupils of the man from the Rock Empire suddenly shrank to the size of a needle, and his face became as pale as paper. Then, his whole body flew out, and a wound so deep that bones could be seen burst open on his chest. Warm and dazzling blood danced like rain. Bang! The man heavily fell to the ground, and at the same time, Chu Hen also steadily landed on the ground. Then, the light purple jade pendant once again fell into Chu Hen's left palm. Sorry, I changed my mind. This thing is still useful to me. Chu Hen indifferently said with a light smile. The man from the Rock Empire was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their socket. His eyes were filled with unwillingness and hatred. But no matter what, it was already of no use. Chu Hen's saber had directly pierced into a vital point. The man from the Rock Empire tilted his head, and with endless resentment, he breathed his last. Chu Hen held the saber diagonally, slowly walked forward, and directly took the storage ring from the man's body. His consciousness submerged into the ring, and a brown, agate-like jade pendant appeared in Chu Hen's hand. One token in hand, there are still 4 more. Chu Hen softly muttered. Being able to obtain a token in such a short period of time was also a small surprise. But to be honest, Chu Hen had not been able to immediately escape from the opponent's trap. If the opponent had been more cautious and not given Chu Hen any opportunity to speak, it would have been more troublesome for Chu Hen. From this, it could be seen that many geniuses possessed great strength. In the following journey, it was better to be more cautious. Immediately, Chu Hen put away the Rock Empire's token and the spoils of war into his bag, and hurriedly left in a certain direction. Not long after Chu Hen had left, a gloomy young figure suddenly appeared beside the man from the Rock Empire, accompanied by the slight rustling of leaves. Buzz, the figure gently waved his sleeve, and a black light penetrated into the body of the corpse. In the next moment, the man's corpse immediately turned into a pile of ashes. To be able to kill Wu Xiu, who was at the same level as him, in a weak situation, is a little interesting. About an hour later, Chu Hen came out of the dense forest, and arrived at a canyon. Hua la la, the sound of flowing water filled the entire canyon, and what appeared in front of Chu Hen was a magnificent waterfall. On both sides of the waterfall were steep rock walls, covered in thick moss, and could not be climbed by human strength. However, when Chu Hen approached the edge of the water, he faintly sensed a slight obscure fluctuation of power. Under normal circumstances, this fluctuation of power would not attract anyone's attention, but this was the arena of the Six Nations Heaven List tournament, so people could not help but be suspicious. Chapter 250. Feeling the slight energy fluctuation coming from the direction of the great waterfall, Chu Hen hesitated for a moment before cautiously walking towards the great waterfall. The closer he got to the waterfall, the stronger the fluctuations of power he felt. Chu Hen looked a little confused. When he was about 20 meters away from the waterfall, there was a faint ripple of light in the air. Then, the things in front of Chu Hen suddenly changed a little. The environment was still the same. But what was different was that in the middle of the turbulent water, there was a large rock. And on that rock, there was a peerlessly beautiful and familiar figure that floated in the air like a fairy. Miss Mengshang. Chu Hen was obviously stunned, and there was still a look of surprise on his face. The beautiful figure sitting on the rock was none other than Luo Mengshang of Imperial Martial Academy. But at this moment, her beautiful eyes were closed, an extremely restless true inner force lingered around her body. Even the space around her was faintly trembling. It can't be like the last time in the Tianqi Mountains, right? Chu Hen clearly remembered the last time in the Tianqi Mountains. Luo Mengshang urgently needed to mediate because of some kind of unstable power in her body. And at that time, it was Chu Hen who guarded her. At that time, Chu Hen had tried to investigate the power in her body, but to Chu Hen's surprise, even the demon eye could not see through Luo Mengshang's secret. But what Chu Hen could confirm was that Luo Mengshang sometimes could not control the power in her body. In that case, the fluctuation of power that he had just captured came from Luo Mengshang. But why did he have to walk here to see her? Could it be a blinding formation? Chu Hen quickly thought of the reason. Among the thousands of formations in the world, there was a kind of formation that could deceive people. People who were in the formation could achieve the effect of invisibility within a certain range. Immediately, Chu Hen took a few steps back. Sure enough, after being separated by less than 2 meters, the rock instantly became empty. Luo Mengshang had disappeared before Chu Hen's eyes. Then, Chu Hen moved forward and returned to where he was just now, and Luo Mengshang's figure reappeared in his line of sight. He didn't expect Luo Mengshang to know how to set up array formations. This was something that Chu Hen did not expect. However, this concealment formation was set up very crudely. After all, Luo Mengshang had only concealed her figure, and the energy fluctuations she released were not concealed at all. Wu Xiu, whose perception was not weak, could sense it from 100 meters away. Thinking back to the situation at the Heaven Lake mountain range, it was probably because Luo Mengshang did not have the time to perfect this concealment formation. This was the best she could do in a short amount of time. Fortunately, you met me, otherwise. Chu Hen shook his head and smiled, thinking that it was quite a coincidence. Luo Mengshang, who was standing on the big rock, was beautiful and otherworldly. A few meters behind her was the Milky Way waterfall. The cool and rapid airflow slightly lifted her long black hair, and her beautiful face, which was enough to bring disaster to countries and people in the future, was exceptionally moving. Chu Hen looked at her quietly, and a faint gentleness involuntarily surged between his brows. However, at this moment, there was a sudden rush of movement in the jungle behind him. Chu Hen was shocked. The aura that Luo Mengchang exuded had finally been detected by others. Immediately, Chu Hen did not hesitate to retreat from the concealment formation and blocked the way outside. Following that, 3 swift and fierce figures arrived at the canyon with the waterfall from different directions. Previously, he had not seen a single figure for most of the day. He did not expect 3 people to appear at once. It was really unpredictable. Judging from the clothes of these 3 people, they were not from the same place. According to the patterns on their clothes, they were the geniuses of the Boulder Empire, the Wind Mist Empire, and the Sword Empire. The 3 geniuses were also a little surprised by the situation in front of them. Then, they looked at Chu Hen at the same time. The movement that attracted them obviously came from Chu Hen's direction. Geniuses from 4 different empires had met. This situation was a little strange. No matter which side made a move, they would have to consider the other 3. Everyone wanted the token that the other party had. Hee, aren't these the geniuses of the Sacred Star Empire? The young man from the Sword Empire suddenly revealed a strange smile. Then, he turned to the other 2 and said, "No matter what, the Saint Star Empire is the champion of the 6 Nations Heaven List tournament. What do the 2 of you think?" The 2 young men from the Boulder Empire and the Wind Mist Empire looked at each other and immediately understood the meaning of the person from the Sword Empire. The man from the Boulder Empire laughed coldly. Since he is a genius from the Champion Empire, he must be very strong. For safety's sake, why don't the 3 of us take care of him first? We'll talk about the rest later. Chu Hen frowned. How could this be a reason for the 3 of them to target him first? The Sacred Star Empire had won the championship 50 years ago. What did it have to do with him? The 3 of you, I am just here to make up the numbers. My token has been snatched by someone just now. Please don't target me. Chu Hen pretended to admit defeat. Of course, in reality, Chu Hen did not want to fight here. After all, Luo Mengchang was still behind. Although the concealment formation could deceive people, it did not have any defensive power. If they fought, even if Chu Hen believed that he had the ability to deal with the 3 people in front of him, he was still worried that he would hurt Luo Mengchang. He and Luo Mengchang could be considered good friends. Previously at the Heaven Lake mountain range, she had even taken the blame for killing a student from the Imperial Martial Academy. Logically speaking, Chu Hen could not ignore Luo Mengchang this time. So you are a coward? The man from the Sword Empire's smile became even more disdainful. However, you said that your token has been snatched. We are not fools. We will not fall for your trick so easily. I am not lying to you. Chu Hen replied calmly. Whether you are lying to us or not, we will know very soon. The young man from the Boulder Empire shouted. Without another word, he rushed toward Chu Hen. I really don't know why I hate you people from the Sacred Star Empire. Earth demons split the earth. Rumble. Chapter 251. I really don't know why I hate people from the Sacred Star Empire so much. Earth demons split the earth. As soon as he finished speaking, the man from the Boulder Empire among the 3 immediately rushed towards Chu Hen with a raging aura. Rumble. Along with the enormous power and might, the surface of the ground quickly split in 2. The long, narrow, and deep cracks quickly moved towards Chu Hen's feet. Looking at the continuous cracks on the ground, the deep and dark cracks gave people a horrifying feeling that if they fell into them, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. A battle was unavoidable. Could it be that the Sacred Star Empire killed your entire family? Moreover, even if the Sacred Star Empire killed your entire family, don't bite me, okay? Accompanied by a frivolous sneer, Chu Hen's figure moved. Like an arrow leaving the bow, he leaped from the ground and directly pounced towards his opponent. Buzz buzz, an astonishing energy wave was released from Chu Hen's body. Traces of black light quickly climbed up Chu Hen's right arm. Subsequently, his right hand turned into a fist and smashed towards the young man from the Boulder Empire. Humph, reckless fool! The man from the Boulder Empire revealed a disdainful expression. He also raised his fist to meet the attack. At the moment when he punched out, a thick layer of rock quickly spread out and covered his entire arm. The incomparably sturdy rock hand emitted an extremely violent power. Compared to his opponent, Chu Hen's fist seemed somewhat insignificant. "Brat, I can smash you to death with one punch, hee, is that so?" Bang! In the next second, the power of the two collided. When Chu Hen's fist, which was surrounded by a black glow, suddenly erupted with an extremely ferocious aura. The scattered true yuan shockwave spread out between the two. The pupils of the gigantic Cliff Empire's man suddenly shrank. Under his astonished gaze, the layer of rock covering his arm immediately shattered into pieces. Gravel of all sizes splashed everywhere. The man from the Boulder Empire felt a mountain-like hidden energy invading from Chu Hen's fist. His entire arm felt numb, and even his bones felt like they were about to break. He really did not expect Chu Hen's physical body to be so strong that even the rocks could not withstand it. In reality, the chaotic body had constantly strengthened Chu Hen's body and bones. In particular, as Chu Hen's cultivation increased, the chaotic body made Chu Hen's body stronger and stronger. Even without using the flaming sun body tempering technique, Chu Hen's physical body was far stronger than an ordinary person's. Can't even withstand a single blow, Chu Hen sneered. The moment he landed on the ground, he suddenly bounced up from the ground and gave a side kick. His attack was as fast as lightning, aiming for his opponent's chest. Damn it! The complexion of the Rock Dynasty's man changed. He hastily mobilized the real primary power in his body and gathered it in front of his chest. Petrification! Crack! Soon after, a large area of his opponent's chest surprisingly turned into a layer of white, hard stone. The solidified stone layer was like a layer of stone armor, and its defense was extremely strong. Bang! Chu Hen's heavy kick landed firmly on his opponent's chest. An extremely overbearing force poured down, and a dense black wave of chi exploded in the air. The man from the Boulder Empire spat out a mouthful of blood. He staggered a few times and constantly retreated. Within 2 moves, in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint, Chu Hen had defeated 1 person. On the other side, the 2 people from the Windmist Empire and the Sword Empire were extremely surprised. No one had expected Chu Hen's strength to be so strong. However, the 2 quickly calmed down. Although Chu Hen was strong, he definitely could not resist the strength of 3 people. Swoosh! The man from the Windmist Empire dashed out. At the same time, a vast and majestic real primary power gushed out from his body. The man's hands continuously formed various complicated seals. When the man's aura soared to its peak, a huge water curtain soared high into the sky behind him. Water shock wave, boom! In the next moment, the terrifying water screen shock wave swept down, and the vast and terrifying energy was like a myriad of beasts galloping, and it carried the momentum of a torrent that swept through 1,000 soldiers. The flowers, grass, and gravel on the ground were completely annihilated, and even a thick layer of soil was shaved off. In the face of the unstoppable water shock wave, a trace of solemnity flashed between Chu Hen's brows. Whoosh! A clear metallic sound caused the air to ripple. Chu Hen directly summoned the limitless tooth. He gripped the hilt with both hands and slashed forward with a mountain-splitting force. Splitting wind slash! Buzz! A black blade light that was more than 10 meters long slashed out. It split the surging water shock wave with a force that could split the wind and wave. Then, it slashed toward the man from the Windmist Empire. The latter's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly released his power to defend himself. At the same time, the man from the Sword Empire's attack followed closely. Humph, so you are an expert with a blade. I wonder what you can do in the face of this genius's swift sword? The man from the Sword Empire leaped into the sky and swung his sword 3 times in a row. There was a strong killing intent in the hurried cold wind. 3 sharp silver sword shadows slashed down one after another. They were comparable to the flowing light flying shadow that could be traced back thousands of years. They were as fast as lightning and as powerful as a shadow. If an ordinary person encountered such a swift and ruthless sword technique, they would probably panic. However, on Chu Hen's face, an expression of extreme disdain was revealed. Heh! This kind of speed is also worthy of being called a swift sword? Immediately, Chu Hen swung his sword 3 times in a row. 3 black blade shadows formed a semicircle and slashed toward the 3 sword shadows. Bang, bang, bang! An extremely heavy explosion sounded like a clap of thunder. The blade shadows and sword shadows wantonly danced in the air. The rocks, flowers, and bushes on the ground were all torn apart by the sharp aura. However, immediately after, Chu Hen leaped into the sky like a shooting star. In an instant, he arrived in front of the man from the Sword Empire who had yet to land on the ground. Humph! I will let you see what is called swift. What? The expression of the man from the Sword Empire changed. With him as the center, the flow of air within a radius of 10 meters became abnormally fast and chaotic. Spiraling tornado-like air currents wrapped around him, suppressing his body from all directions. Not only was his movement suppressed, but even the circulation of true origin energy in his body became slower. Without waiting for the man from the Sword Empire to break free, the black blade in Chu Hen's hand was already swung out like a passing shadow. Shadow Moon Dance. Hiss, along with the ear-piercing sound of a sharp weapon cutting through flesh, a 10-meter-long silver crescent moon descended from the sky and streaked past the body of the man from the Sword Empire like a ray of light. The man's pupils violently trembled and his face instantly turned deathly pale. Immediately after, Chu Hen directly drew a series of afterimages in the air. His body instantly moved to the next position. At the same time, another crescent moon blade light pierced through the heavens and earth. It was bright and dazzling. Chu Hen's speed was extremely fast, like a phantom. From afar, it looked like there were more than 10 Chu Hen surrounding the man from the Sword Empire and attacking him from all directions. Numerous afterimages swept across the sky and the crescent moon blade light was dazzling. In just a blink of an eye, Chu Hen swung his blade 9 times. Shadow Moon Dance, 9-blade force. When the 9th blade strike ended, Chu Hen steadily landed on the ground. The man from the Sword Empire fell like a bird with broken wings. A mournful scream followed. 9 bone-deep wounds directly burst open on the man's body. Fresh blood danced in the air, and the man was instantly covered in blood. Bang! The man fell heavily on the ground and became a corpse. In a flash, a man was killed. The 2 men from the Windmist Empire and the gigantic Cliff Empire were so scared that their faces turned deathly pale. Their eyes were filled with fear. How could the young man from the Sacred Star Empire be so strong? All of them were obviously at the 4th level of the core transformation realm, but none of them could compete with him. Looking at the man from the Sword Empire lying on the ground, the 2 men's hearts were filled with disgust and fear. Let's go! Without another word, the 2 men turned around and fled. However, Chu Hen did not intend to let them escape just like that. Humph, since you're here, don't leave. Chu Hen's figure moved and he took the lead to chase the man from the Windmist Empire who was closest to him. Feeling the endless dangerous aura coming from behind him, the man from the Windmist Empire became ruthless and shouted, "Bastard, don't go too far." After saying that, he suddenly turned around and raised his palm to attack Chu Hen. "Sorry, you've made a mistake. Just now, the 3 of you bullied me first." Hiss, the limitless Fong, which was surrounded by a thick black light, swept past like a black lightning. The man from the Windmist Empire was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. A stream of blood splattered in the air as his right hand was forcefully cut off by the black battle blade. The incomparably mournful scream made one's scalp tingle. With a flash of the blade, the scream stopped abruptly and the man's head and arm flew into the air. The remaining man from the gigantic cliff empire was so scared that he wet his pants. His entire face turned ashen. Fear surged in his heart. This was only the first day of the Six Nations Heaven List battle. He did not expect to meet such a terrifying person. He was already regretting it so much that his intestines turned green. "Who's that? Didn't you say that you want to kill the people from the Sacred Star Empire?" Chu Hen's playful and cold smile came from behind. "Damn you!" The man from the gigantic cliff empire was shocked, angry, and full of hatred. "Get lost, hiss." Before he could finish his words, he felt a pain in his chest. A cold and sharp weapon had directly pierced through his chest. The sharp blade came out of his chest. Chapter 252. Bang! With a muffled sound, the man from the Boulder Empire fell to the ground with a strong unwillingness. He then swallowed his last breath. In an instant, Chu Hen had killed 3 people in a row. Moreover, they were 3 people of the same level. This kind of power was extremely domineering. Chu Hen turned around and looked at the waterfall. Although it was separated by the obstruction formation, the energy ripples from the formation were getting clearer and more uneasy. "It seems like the crucial moment has arrived," Chu Hen muttered to himself. Then, he began to take the tokens from the 3 people on the ground. The token of the Boulder Empire was a brown jade that looked like an agate. The token of the Misty Wind Empire was an aqua blue color. As for the token of the Sword Empire, it was a small and exquisite sword that was as long as a finger. Including the genius from the Boulder Empire that he had killed previously, in less than a day, Chu Hen had collected 4 tokens. Including his own, he had a total of 5 tokens. As long as he obtained 1 more token, he would be qualified to enter the finals. Needless to say, this speed was very shocking. However, just as Chu Hen was about to put the 3 keepsakes into his pocket, his gaze suddenly turned cold. The corner of his eyes, which contained a cold glint, swept towards a deep forest. "After following me for so long, you still don't plan to show yourself?" The ice-cold voice emitted a biting chill. A cold gust of wind blew the fallen leaves on the ground. Then, the sha-sha sound of footsteps on dead branches came from afar. In the dark and dense forest, a slender figure became clear from the blur. Following that, a sinister face appeared in Chu Hen's line of sight. The Flame Shadow Empire. Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. He saw that there was a pattern of a flame cloud on the other party's clothes. This pattern was the symbol of the Flame Shadow Empire, which specialized in the power of fire. Splendid, truly splendid. The man with a gloomy aura applauded softly with a playful smile on his face. "I never thought that there would be someone like you in the Sacred Star Dynasty." Chu Hen said coldly without batting an eyelid. "You didn't plan to make a move before, but now you finally can't help it?" "How do you know I've been following you?" the man asked. What else can I do? I'm waiting for your 6th token." Chu Hen's palm moved, and the limitless fang in his hand flickered with a dazzling light. The man was startled at first, then he laughed out loud and said, "Ha ha ha ha, not bad at all. If it was someone else, they might really be scared away by your attitude. But, unfortunately, you met me, Xiao Ju." As soon as he finished speaking, a mountain-like aura erupted from his body. Chu Hen was shocked in his heart. The strength of the person in front of him had reached the peak of the 5th level of the core transformation realm. He was only half a step away from the 6th level. Especially when the other party had a bloodline with an extremely destructive fire attribute physique. Such an enemy was a little troublesome. Of course, in reality, Chu Hen didn't know that the other party had been following him. The reason why he said that was purely to scare the other party. After all, Chu Hen still had some scruples in his heart. Currently, Luo Mengchang, who was in the concealment formation, was most likely at a crucial moment. Any ripple from the battle might affect her. At that time, Chu Hen didn't dare to speculate what would happen to Luo Mengchang. Xiao Ju looked at the calm Chu Hen in front of him, and the playful expression on his face became even more intense. It was a wise decision for me not to attack you previously. In order to thank you for helping me collect so many tokens, I will leave your corpse intact. Since you want the tokens, I will give them to you. What do you think? Chu Hen said. Xiao Ju laughed coldly. Didn't the first person you met die in your hands just like this? Moreover, a threat like you should be dealt with as soon as possible. Otherwise, there will be more problems in the future. As soon as he finished speaking, a ball of scorching flame rose from Xiao Ju's body. What was different from an ordinary flame was that the other party's flame was actually gray in color. The extremely restless energy fluctuation caused the space to faintly distort. I gave you face, but you don't want it. Chu Hen replied with a disdainful sneer. Let me give you a piece of advice. If you don't want to die, stay away from me. Xiao Ju's face sank. He raised his hand and pushed out a pillar of fire towards Chu Hen. Just because of what you said just now, I have decided not to leave your corpse intact. The extremely powerful black pillar of fire was unusually ferocious. Wherever it went, the airwave became unbearably hot. The ground was even left with a burnt mark. Chu Hen's figure moved, and he dodged to the side. Then, he glanced at the direction of the waterfall from the corner of his eyes. He immediately moved and fled in any direction in the forest. If you have the guts, then chase after me. If I don't kill you, then my surname isn't Chu. Swish! Chu Hen consecutively leaped a few times and disappeared into the forest. Xiao Ju's face was filled with ruthlessness. His gaze also looked towards the direction of the waterfall. With his strength, he was naturally able to feel the strange energy fluctuation coming from that direction. But Xiao Ju didn't know that Chu Hen's intention was to lure him away. After a short moment of hesitation, Xiao Ju still chose to first chase after Chu Hen. Wait till I kill that arrogant bastard, then I'll come over here to investigate. No matter what, Chu Hen currently had a total of 5 keepsakes in his hands. As long as he obtained these 5 keepsakes, in addition to his own, he would have a total of 6 keepsakes. For the next 2 months he could spend it easily. Although Xiao Ju was also very curious about what was behind the blinding formation. But in comparison, Chu Hen was still more important. If he wasn't careful and allowed Chu Hen to escape, then the 5 keepsakes might end up in someone else's hands. Swish! Amidst the lush forest, a great chase was taking place. Stinking brat, weren't you quite arrogant earlier? Now you're a turtle hiding in its shell? Xiao Ju especially disdainfully opened his mouth and mocked. As he chased after Chu Hen, gray flames were continuously released and rising from within Xiao Ju's body. Numerous gray flame pillars that were like dragons and dancing snakes flew out from his palm. Wherever the gray flames went, the flowers, trees, and shrubs all turned into ashes. Such a terrifying destructive power was incomparably domineering. Chu Hen didn't even turn his head back as he moved swiftly in front of Xiao Ju. A slight arc unknowingly appeared on his handsome and firm face. I thought you were very smart, but it turns out that you're just a stupid dog. As his voice fell, strands of demonic purple light started to spread out from within Chu Hen's body. His pitch-black eyes slowly closed, and after a short pause for a second, a pair of faint purple pupils suddenly appeared on Chu Hen's face. Stinking brat, I told you to stop. Xiao Ju, who was behind him, let out a loud roar. Following that, an extremely powerful aura that was comparable to the eruption of a mountain torrent shot up into the sky from within his body. The surging gray flames stacked up like a tsunami, and the flowers and trees within a radius of tens of meters were instantly burned into ashes. Death flame heavenly fireball, buzz! In an instant, a huge gray fireball with a diameter of over 50 meters whizzed towards Chu Hen in an extremely terrifying manner. The terrifying gray fireball was unstoppable as it rolled at full speed, crushing everything in its path. Everywhere it went, everything turned into incomparably fine ashes. Flowers, trees, venomous insects, snakes, and ants were all annihilated on the spot in an instant. The fireball's rolling speed was extremely fast as it continuously closed the distance between it and Chu Hen. Hee hee. Xiao Ju's face revealed a sinister smile. Stinking brat, be burned to ashes by this genius's death flame. However, at this critical moment, Chu Hen, who had been constantly escaping, suddenly turned his head around. Boom! An endless amount of bewitching purple light burst out like a surging tide. With a thought from Chu Hen, a sparkling and translucent blue rune appeared in his palm. Boom! In the next moment, a magnificent water curtain that was comparable to a raging tsunami rose up furiously. Bang! The huge gray fireball was like a meteorite that flew from the heavens and directly charged into the tide. The incomparably violent energy shook the heavens and the earth. Scorching white mist surged into the sky like a huge mushroom cloud. The powerful aftershock wave swept out in all directions. With a sweeping force, it broke countless huge trees with intertwining roots, and a thick layer of the soil on the ground was directly swept away. You're too naive to think that you can block my death flames with that little ability of yours. Along with Xiao Ju's arrogant roar, the gray fireball actually forcefully broke through the surging water curtain wave. Although the fireball was obviously smaller than before, its power was still abnormally tyrannical. The space faintly trembled uneasily. Chu Hen, who was in front of the fireball, felt like he was facing a collapsing mountain. However, at this moment, a pair of purple light wings suddenly appeared behind Chu Hen's back. The light wings seemed to be made of colored glass, dazzling and brilliant. When the terrifying fireball arrived in front of him, the purple light wings spread out like an eagle, dragging a series of purple afterimages in the air. Chu Hen directly flashed into the sky. Boom! The gray fireball crushed down from below Chu Hen. Then, it exploded like a volcano, directly causing the area within a radius of 200 to 300 meters to suffer a disaster. Flying spirit tool? Xiao Ju clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with a gloomy expression as he looked at Chu Hen in the sky. However, in the next second, an extreme power was released from Chu Hen's eyes. Swoosh! Immediately after, two purple light beams were like flying light shuttles that traced back thousands of years, sweeping up an unstoppable biting cold killing intent as they attacked Xiao Ju below. Chapter 253. Nirvana, Light of Death. Along with Chu Hen's light shout, two purple light beams, like a flying shuttle of light, swept up an unstoppable, piercingly cold killing intent, and attacked towards Xiao Ju, who was in front of them. Xiao Ju's pupils slightly shrunk. He could clearly feel a strong dangerous aura from the two purple light beams. He really did not expect that a fourth-level core transformation stage fellow would actually possess so many powerful trump card. Damned bastard, don't be too pleased with yourself. After speaking, Xiao Ju clasped his palms together as the surging death flame vigorously rose. The death flame that enveloped his body rapidly transformed into the silhouette of a ferocious tiger. Roar! The deafening roar of the tiger shook all directions as the fierce tiger phantom roared towards the sky. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it welcomed the two purple light beams. Buzz buzz! At this moment Chu Hen, who was high up in the sky, lifted his eyelids. His eyes turned cold as the two black dots in the depths of his purple pupils chased each other like a lantern. Two-star demon eyes, Nirvana, kill. In an instant, the two purple light beams that arrived in front of Xiao Ju suddenly blossomed with a dazzling purple light. In the next instant, the two purple light beams transformed into two abnormally sharp purple arrows. Their terrifying might increased by several times as they spread out. Hiss! The hurried sharp sound was abnormally ear-piercing. Xiao Ju's pupils shrunk to the size of a needle. Under his panic-filled gaze, the two purple arrows directly pierced through the huge body of the huge tiger illusory figure that was transformed from the death flames. The death flames was split apart by the arrows. Following that, an extremely ear-piercing hiss sound was heard as the two purple arrows pierced into Xiao Ju's chest and came out diagonally from his back. Tisk, Xiao Ju's heart involuntarily shrank twice as his face instantly turned as pale as paper. I've already told you not to follow me. You're the one who didn't listen. A mocking voice pounced towards him. Xiao Ju's eyes, which were filled with panic, reflected a handsome face. On that face there was actually a pair of bewitching purple pupils. You are demon, hiss. Before he could finish, a cold spear surrounded by a black aura tore through the air and pierced through Xiao Ju's throat. The sharp tip of the spear pierced through the back of his neck, and scarlet blood slowly flowed down the tip of the spear. Goodbye, I won't be sending you off, Chu Hen coldly said. Xiao Ju's pale face was filled with endless fear. At this moment, he finally understood who was the real prey. The reason why Chu Hen did not make a move at the previous location was because he did not want to alarm the person behind the obstruction formation. However, Xiao Ju understood too late. By the time he figured it out, the cold temperature of the spear had already spread to his entire body through his blood. Bang! Xiao Ju fell heavily onto the ground like a pile of mud. Warm blood flowed happily and his eyes were wide open. However, he could not die in peace. Phew! Chu Hen heaved a long sigh of relief, and the aura around him converged back into his body. I've finally dealt with all these troubles. At the same time that Chu Hen's face revealed a trace of a relaxed smile, his eyes that had returned to normal also revealed slight exhaustion. This was only the first day of the Six-Nation Heaven List Great Battle, and he had already encountered 5 enemies. 3 consecutive high-intensity battles had already caused Chu Hen to be unable to take it. However, at least he had gathered all 6 tokens. Immediately, Chu Hen walked to the side of Xiao Ju's corpse, and with a flick of his Devil Slayer spear, he directly picked up Xiao Ju's storage belt into his hand. Then, he took out a fiery red round jade pendant. The 6 tokens had all been collected. He believed that this speed would definitely be ranked at the top. Of course, there wasn't much meaning in who was the fastest to gather all 6 tokens. Once he encountered a strong team or a team with many people, the 6 tokens in Chu Hen's hand might instantly become 0. The one who had the last laugh was the way of the king. Chu Hen casually put away the tokens and the spoils of war. Just as he was about to return to the canyon waterfall, a series of hurried footsteps rapidly swept toward his location. No way! Chu Hen was startled in his heart. Was he really that unlucky? Why did he encounter enemies one after another? Senior Huangfu, the sounds of the battle just now came from there, Senior Huangfu? Chu Hen, who was about to leave, could not help but be startled. Could it be Huangfu Liang? Then, more than 10 young figures had already rushed over. However, when they saw that the area within a radius of a few hundred meters had been turned into ruins by the violent power, they were all stunned. Chu Hen. When they saw Chu Hen who had yet to leave, they were even more surprised. Chu Hen's gaze slightly froze. These people were from the Holy Star team, and the leader was Huangfu Liang. However, none of them had a good relationship with Chu Hen. It was fine if none of them were familiar. On the contrary, Ren Han, Wei Zhong, and a few other people who had a grudge with him were also among them. Senior Huangfu. Since they were also from the Holy Star team, Chu Hen could be considered to have greeted Huangfu Liang calmly. Huangfu Liang smiled indifferently but did not make any response. This is? The Flame Shadow Dynasty's Xiao Ju? A surprised voice came from a young girl's mouth. Then, she looked back at Chu Hen with a face of disbelief and said, Xiao Ju was killed by you? Yes. Chu Hen replied indifferently with a nod. What? In an instant, everyone looked at Chu Hen with a strange expression. Especially Ren Han and Wei Zhong, their eyes were filled with coldness. One had to know that Xiao Ju was at the peak of the 5th level core transformation realm. Even in the Flame Shadow Dynasty's team, he was ranked around 20. Now, he was killed by Chu Hen just like that. What was even more surprising was that apart from his slightly weak aura, there were no obvious injuries on Chu Hen's body. It was obvious that it was not difficult for Chu Hen to kill Xiao Ju. Just how strong was this guy? He was only at the 4th level core transformation realm, yet he was able to kill a Flame Shadow Dynasty's genius, who was at the peak of the 5th level core transformation realm so easily. Everyone could not help but re-evaluate Chu Hen's strength. Haha, junior brother Chu Hen's methods are truly good. Even Xiao Ju was defeated by you, Ren Han said with a faint smile on his face. Chu Hen spread out his hands, shrugged, and said, I was just lucky. You're really humble. Ren Han's tone had a hint of sarcasm. Chu Hen could not be bothered to argue with Ren Han, so he smiled and did not say anything. Chapter 254. Since we've met here, let's go together. Huang Fuliang lifted his eyelids and said to Chu Hen calmly. Chu Hen hesitated for a moment before nodding. However, the Sacred Star team has a plan. Huang Fuliang changed the topic and said, I'll keep all the tokens of the Sacred Star team for the time being. When the time comes, I'll distribute them to all of you at the Sky Gorge platform. Give the token to you for safekeeping? Chu Hen's face revealed a puzzled expression. That's right. In order to prevent your tokens from being taken away during the journey, I'll keep them for all of you. Huang Fuliang was the strongest in the entire Sacred Star team. Moreover, as the leader of the Saint Star team, to a certain extent, leaving the tokens with him was considered a safer method. Looking at Huang Fuliang's calm and irresistible gaze, Chu Hen smiled. Chu Hen smiled indifferently. Then, with a flick of his palm, a purple jade pendant appeared in his hand. This was the token that represented the Sacred Star Empire, and it was also in Chu Hen's possession. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Huang Fuliang. Chu Hen raised his hand and handed the jade pendant to Huang Fuliang. However, Huang Fuliang had no intention of taking it. He crossed his arms in front of him and replied indifferently, I don't think you understood what I meant. What I said earlier was to hand over all of your keepsakes to me for safekeeping. All of my tokens? Chu Hen frowned and glanced at Xiao Ju's corpse from the corner of his eye. Ren Han, Wei Zhong and the rest looked at Chu Hen with a hint of schadenfreude. From their point of view, it wasn't easy for Chu Hen to kill Xiao Ju from the Flame Shadow Empire and obtain his token. Now that Huang Fuliang had confiscated his token, it was a delightful thing for others to see. The air current that was scorching hot just a moment ago was now somewhat cold and solemn. Huang Fuliang's eyes were like torches. His tone did not allow Chu Hen to refuse. Just as everyone was waiting to see Chu Hen suffer a setback, Chu Hen clenched his fist and took the purple jade pendant back into his hand. Speaking of which, I don't think it's a good idea to hand the keepsakes to you. Then, he looked at the other party fearlessly. Huang Fuliang raised his eyebrows and replied with interest. I'd love to hear more. If everyone gives you their tokens, then the opponents of the other 5 dynasties only need to target you. Dealing with you alone is equivalent to defeating our entire team. Are you saying that I, Huang Fuliang, am not qualified to be the leader? Do you think others can casually snatch the token from my hands? Haha, senior brother Huang Fu is thinking too much. Chu Hen smiled and said, I just want to say that there are still people in the other 5 dynasties who can threaten senior brother Huang Fu. What's more, if our enemies join forces to deal with senior brother Huang Fu temporarily, then all the tokens that are gathered together will be plundered. As soon as he said this, the surrounding people couldn't help but reveal astonished expressions. It was the first time someone dared to talk to Huang Fuliang like this. Wei Zhong and Ren Han laughed secretly. It was not a fun thing to offend Huang Fuliang. So, you don't intend to give me the token in your hand? Huang Fuliang's expression did not change at all, but his calm tone gave people a bone-chilling feeling. Chu Hen was still unmoved and replied without hesitation, I think that senior brother Huang Fu doesn't need to take care of my things. As for whether I can keep my token, it's not Senior Brother Huangfu's concern. Goodbye. After speaking, Chu Hen directly turned around and left, leaving behind an arrogant back view for everyone. Ever since he suffered a loss at the Imperial City Square, Chu Hen knew that he had to be on his guard against Huang Fuliang. Compared to the enemies of the other 5 dynasties, from how Chu Hen saw it, Huang Fuliang was perhaps even more dangerous. As for handing over all the tokens, it was impossible for him to do so. Since he could not get along with them, Chu Hen did not plan to stay. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen disappeared from everyone's sight. Looking in the direction that Chu Hen left, Huang Fuliang's eyes flashed with coldness. The corner of his mouth curled up into a frivolous smile. Who's willing to help me bring back his token? Everyone was shocked. Looking at Huang Fuliang's smile, they felt a chill down their spines. Then, Wei Zhong walked forward without hesitation and said, "Hee, I'll go." Huang Fuliang smiled indifferently and glanced at Xiao Ju's corpse. "I'm afraid you won't be able to do it alone." As soon as he finished speaking, Tifeng Province's Ren Han laughed mockingly. "I'm willing to help. Thank you very much." Huang Fuliang's voice was frivolous. "Other than the token, I don't want to see this person ever again." Great minds think alike. Seeing the cold smiles on Ren Han and Wei Zhong's faces, the rest of the people who did not have any grudges with Chu Hen felt disgusted. It was not a wise decision to offend Huang Fuliang. Everyone could not help but worry about Chu Hen's fate. In the dark forest, Chu Hen continuously moved through the forest. The young man's determined face faintly revealed a hint of coldness. Today's luck was really bad. He met all the people that he did not want to see. The only thing that made him happy was that he had completed collecting the 6 tokens. "Let's go back to the canyon first." Chu Hen raised his eyebrows. He did not know how Luo Mengchang was doing. Boom! However, just as Chu Hen was preparing to return to the side of the canyon's waterfall, a wild and violent force came crushing over from the area behind him like a mountain torrent. The thick trees were cut in half, and the flowers and plants were all crushed into pieces. The remaining power of the powerful Qi wave was like a surging wave, attacking towards Chu Hen's direction. Little bastard, where do you think you're going?" Wei Zhong's sinister voice was heard. Chu Hen was shocked, and his face instantly turned cold. "It's finally here." Huang Fuliang really did not plan to let him go. Chu Hen looked back and saw that other than Wei Zhong, Tifeng Province's Ren Han was also among the group. "Damn it!" Chu Hen cursed under his breath. His frown deepened. Ren Han's strength was ranked 2nd in Tifeng Province. He was second only to Sidufeng, the strongest person in Difeng Province. Previously, Ren Han's cultivation was in the 5th stage of the core transformation realm. After consuming the Earth Star Boundary Condensing Pill, he successfully broke through the bottleneck and entered the 6th stage of the core transformation realm. Although Wei Zhong was subdued by Chu Hen in the imperial capital with a single move, however, with the help of the Earth Star Boundary Condensing Pill, Wei Zhong successfully entered the 5th stage of the core transformation realm. Chu Hen, who was only at the peak of the 4th stage of the core transformation realm, had to face 2 opponents whose cultivation was higher than his. This was really troublesome for him. "Junior brother Chu Hen, don't run so fast. You killed Ren Chong and Ren Wei. This debt will be settled sooner or later." Ren Han sneered. As soon as he finished speaking, Ren Han raised both of his arms. Swoosh! The 4 black chains were like dragons emerging from the sea. With a frightening might, they attacked Chu Hen in front of them. The speed of the iron chains was extremely fast. In an instant they were more than 10 meters long. The air was filled with the sound of waves. Chu Hen's figure moved, and he immediately changed directions. Borrowing the cover of the trees in the forest, he dodged. Where do you think you're going to hide?" Ren Han laughed weirdly and raised his arms again. The 4 chains immediately turned, and with a sweeping force, they cut the towering trees in half. Once again, they chased after Chu Hen. The corner of Chu Hen's eyes narrowed. Ren Han is so strong. A sixth stage of the core transformation realm is really not an ordinary person. If it was under normal circumstances, Chu Hen would not have turned around and run. However, he had not been idle all this while. He had encountered a total of 5 opponents and had fought 3 rounds of intense battles. The true origin energy in Chu Hen's dantian was still in a deficit. Naturally, he was at a disadvantage. "Hey little bastard, where do you think you're going?" Taking advantage of Ren Han's cover, Wei Zhong used his fastest speed to charge forward. A large blade with golden rings appeared in his hand. With a wave of the blade, a layer of vigorous blade wave, like a huge tide, covered the sky and covered the earth as it chopped at Chu Hen. Leaves rustled and fell. The powerful blade wave swept over and set off an unstoppable mighty force. "Heh, a defeated opponent dares to speak so boldly?" Chu Hen snorted disdainfully. With a flash of white light, the demon Punisher's spear appeared in his hand. With a flick of the spear, a condensed and resplendent sharp spear light took advantage of the momentum and directly shattered the blade wave. "Humph, I was careless last time. Do you think you can defeat me this time?" Wei Zhong shouted. "Shameless boasting. Do you have the guts to fight me one-on-one? Let's see if I can't kill you." "Bastard, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Wei Zhong raised his blade and rushed forward. However, Ren Han, who followed closely behind, said in a low voice, "This stinking brat is full of tricks. Don't pay attention to him. Let's end the battle quickly. We just need to kill him." Ren Han obviously attached more importance to Chu Hen. Even the Flame Shadow Dynasty's Xiao Ju lost his life at Chu Hen's hands. How could Wei Zhong deal with Chu Hen alone? "Stinking brat, I'll make sure you have nowhere to go today." Crash! The 4 chains once again flew out. From 4 different directions, they chased after Chu Hen. Ren Han's control of the Soul Lock battle physique was like heaven and earth compared to Ren Chong and Ren Wei. Not only was his speed extremely fast, his power was also extremely strong. His flexibility was like a dragon or snake, swoosh swoosh. The black metal chains continuously expanded and extended. They directly passed through the trees on both sides of Chu Hen and circled in front of him, blocking his path. Chapter 255. "Humph, let's see where you can escape to." The 4 black chains continued to expand and extend, directly passing through the trees on both sides of Chu Hen, circling to the front and blocking Chu Hen's path. Immediately, Chu Hen leaped up, intending to fly over. However, Ren Han's reaction speed was a little faster, only to see the solid and ice-cold chains blossoming with a dazzling golden light. Bang bang bang. Accompanied by a series of heavy explosions, the chains rapidly shrank towards the area where Chu Hen was. As they shrank, the trees were forcibly torn apart on the spot. "Little bastard, let me show you what a true, soul-lock battle physique is." Ren Han's eyes surged with cold, killing intent. Just as the 4 chains shrank towards Chu Hen, another 2 poisonous python-like chains darted out from his sleeves and directly attacked Chu Hen in front of him. Voila! As the second top genius in Tifeng Province, Ren Han's strength could be said to be extremely strong. His Soul Lock battle physique bloodline limit power could even control 8 chains at the same time. And now, the power of the 6 chains had already caused Chu Hen to have no choice but to treat it seriously. Facing the attack of the 6 chains, Chu Hen quickly unfolded the power of the purple shadow wings. Buzz buzz, a pair of purple glazed light wings unfolded behind his back. With a flap of the light wings, with a whoosh, Chu Hen directly turned into a flowing shadow and flew up into the sky, breaking away from Ren Han's grasp. It's actually a flying-type spiritual tool. Ren Han's eyes revealed a bit of heat and greed. Flying-type spiritual tools were already very rare in the Sacred Star Dynasty. For any martial artist with a cultivation base below the void-piercing realm, being able to fly in the sky was definitely something that they yearned for. "Wei Zhong!" Ren Han shouted. He understood. Wei Zhong laughed strangely and then jumped at full speed to 20 to 30 meters in the sky. Crash! With a wave of Ren Hanyang's hand, one of the chains slithered down Wei Zhong's body like a dancing snake. Wei Zhong's feet accurately stepped on the chain, and with a bounce, he completed his second jump off the ground. Wei Zhong's own strength, in addition to the strength transmitted by Ren Han through the chains, caused Wei Zhong's speed to become extremely fast. Like an arrow shot towards a bird, he charged towards Chu Hen, and the golden-ringed saber in his hand erupted with a wave of raging power. Hee little bastard, so what if you have wings? Eat my saber. Chu Hen's expression changed slightly. He had to admit that Wei Zhong and Ren Han's teamwork was exceptionally good. Even the purple shadow wings could not shake them off in an instant. Humph! However, Chu Hen did not panic at all. He flipped his left hand and a fire spirit talisman appeared in his palm. Senior brother Wei, I'll give you a firecracker to play with, what? With that, Chu Hen waved his hand and directly threw the fire spirit talisman. As it moved, the fire spirit talisman released an extremely manic energy fluctuation. The restless power was like a brewing volcano, abnormally violent. Wei Zhong's heart jumped, but he did not dare to be careless. He hurriedly swung a powerful saber towards the fire spirit talisman. Boom! Accompanied by a heavy thunderous explosion, an incomparably scorching pillar of fire immediately shot into the sky. The sky changed color, and the wind and clouds surged. The magnificent scene in the sky was like a volcano that had suddenly erupted. A huge red mushroom cloud of flames surged into the sky, and fireballs danced wantonly in the sky. The vast and mighty scorching shock wave swept out in all directions, and a large area of the forest below was instantly burned to ashes. Bang! The astonishing shock wave caused Wei Zhong to immediately fall from the sky. His legs heavily landed on the ground, and his expression was incomparably dark and ashen. Although the fire spirit talisman did not cause much damage to him, a few holes had still been burnt on his clothes. Don't be in a daze, hurry up and chase, Ren Han shouted in a low voice. Even if he grows wings, he won't be able to escape. Immediately, the two continued to chase after Chu Hen. Ren Han and Wei Zhong both knew that although a flying spiritual tool was magical, it consumed a lot of true essence when using it. As long as they followed Chu Hen closely, it would not be long before Chu Hen returned to the ground. Moreover, the two also knew that Chu Hen's current state was one where his stamina was greatly depleted. As long as they paid attention to his high-grade talisman, they would be able to slowly exhaust him to death. Swish, activating the purple shadow wings, Chu Hen quickly moved in a direction. If he could find a cliff, he would be able to use the purple shadow wings to escape from the two. However, as far as his eyes could see, there was only a vast and boundless forest. There was no effective escape route at all. This won't do. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. The little true essence that he had left was being consumed rapidly. If this continued, he would eventually become a fish on the chopping board. He could only give it his all. Buzz buzz, in an instant, a dense bewitching purple brilliance leaked out from Chu Hen's body. Soon after, an obscure purple light surged in the depths of his pitch-black pupils. Subsequently, Chu Hen's figure moved and he bent down to descend. Seeing Chu Hen descend from the sky, Ren Han and Wei Zhong, who were chasing after him, could not help but reveal a sinister smile. This little bastard finally can't hold on any longer. Go. After saying that, Wei Zhong took the lead and rushed towards the area where Chu Hen landed. The golden ring broadsword in his hand was covered in a thick layer of silver light. It was so dazzling that it was like the essence condensed from the brilliance of the moon. Ren Han followed closely behind. The 6 iron chains were like poisonous black pythons that wrapped around his body. One was the 5th-ranked genius of Imperial Martial Academy, the other was the 2nd-ranked genius of Tifeng Province. If the people of the various high-ranked martial houses in the imperial city knew that the two of them had joined forces to hunt down a mere Chu Hen, it would probably cause countless people to sigh in amazement. Hee, you can't escape. Wei Zhong's eyes were filled with a strange smile. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a big tree in front of him suddenly exploded from the middle without any warning. Along with the splashing sawdust, a strong and dangerous aura suddenly attacked. A sharp cold spear tore through the air, like an aurora sweeping across the night sky, and quickly pierced towards Wei Zhong's throat. What? Wei Zhong's expression changed drastically, and he immediately panicked. No matter what, he did not think that Chu Hen would actually hide here and make a sudden attack. Humph! How can you hide from my eyes with such insignificant tricks? Ren Han sneered. With a wave of his hand, one of the iron chains rapidly shot out, like a spirit snake, and directly wrapped around Chu Hen's demon Punisher spear. Stop! Ren Han shouted in a stern voice. However, the incomparably sharp cold spear did not stop, and directly pierced towards Wei Zhong along with the iron chain. The powerful might of the demon Punisher spear contained a terrifying force of 10,000 kilograms. A piercingly cold gale pounced towards Wei Zhong's face. Although Ren Han did not block Chu Hen's attack, it more or less restricted the other party's speed. Taking advantage of this extremely short period of time, Wei Zhong hurriedly used the golden-ringed broadsword in front of him to block. Bang! The astonishing power that was as ferocious as a mountain firmly struck the broadsword's blade, and a ball of surging true essence shockwave exploded. The airflow in the air violently trembled. The surging hidden force completely surged into Wei Zhong's body, and the latter was directly shaken until he continuously retreated. His entire arm was numb, and the broadsword almost flew out of his hand. That was close. If Ren Han had not dragged Chu Hen out for a split second, the spear would have pierced through the other party's throat. Damn bastard! Wei Zhong was unable to restrain his anger. In his rage, he swung the broadsword towards Chu Hen. Bang! Chu Hen shook off the iron chain on his body, and a slight trace of regret flashed in his eyes. If he had killed Wei Zhong first, the pressure on him would have obviously decreased a lot. Once the opportunity was lost, there would not be a second time. Stinking brat, even though you are full of tricks, don't even think of escaping from me. Ren Han's hands today, following that, the 6 chains that were flickering with a golden radiance quickly launched a fierce attack towards Chu Hen. Chu Hen frowned, but he could only face Wei Zhong's attack while dodging Ren Han's iron chain attacks. The chaotic battle of 1 against 2 unfolded in the forest. Chu Hen fought and retreated, and the cold spear in his hand constantly collided with Wei Zhong's broadsword. Sparks flew when the sharp weapons collided. The hard and cold iron chain was like a soaring dragon, dancing like a snake, sweeping towards Chu Hen with the momentum of an iron chain crossing a river. The might of the chains was extremely destructive. Flowers, grass, and trees were all swept away, and deep ravines and cracks appeared on the ground. Even though this was the case, Chu Hen appeared calm and unruffled under the joint attack of 2 top geniuses. Although he defended more than he attacked, he did not show any signs of being flustered. Ren Han was secretly surprised. This Chu Hen seemed to be able to predict his attack in advance, and he was able to dodge it perfectly every time. This was really strange. This guy is really not simple. Ren Han's eyes became colder and colder. At the same time, he had already made up his mind that Chu Hen must not be left alive. Such a genius with unlimited potential would definitely be a huge disaster if he were to be left alive. The best way was to kill this threat completely in the cradle. Swoosh! In the next moment, the 7th and 8th iron chains suddenly flew out from Ren Han's shoulders. There was a total of 8 iron chains, giving people the feeling that they were swinging their long legs. Under Ren Han's control, the 8 iron chains continuously attacked Chu Hen from the front and back, and the rapid airflow caused the space within a radius of 100 meters to become abnormally chaotic. On the other hand, the pressure on Chu Hen also became greater and greater. Buzz, suddenly, a strange energy fluctuation was suddenly transmitted from Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen could not help but be shocked. Chapter 256. Just as Ren Han was controlling the 8 chains to attack Chu Hen with all his might, an extremely unsettling and peculiar energy suddenly surged in Chu Hen's body. Chu Hen was startled, and a strange expression appeared on his face. You're about to die, yet you still dare to be absent-minded," Wei Zhong sneered disdainfully as he flipped his broadsword and slashed at his opponent. Chu Hen's figure moved, and with a few somersaults, he retreated to the trunk of a large tree behind him. Immediately after, the energy in his body was like a torrent that was about to break through a dam, and the Yuan Dan in Chu Hen's dantian became extremely turbulent. An active and rich purple light lingered around Chu Hen's body, and his handsome and determined face looked especially demonic and evil at this moment. Ren Han and Wei Zhong were also puzzled by this. What the hell was this guy doing? After a moment of confusion, thick killing intent flashed in their eyes again. "Brat, don't play tricks in front of the two of us. No matter what tricks you play today, you can't escape death." After saying that, Wei Zhong and Ren Han both raised an unstoppable, piercingly cold power and attacked Chu Hen. Both of their bodies released a strong and violent true origin energy, causing the ground to tremble incessantly. It was obvious that Wei Zhong and Ren Han did not intend to delay any longer and were ready to give Chu Hen the final fatal blow. A dazzling silver light like the sun bloomed from Wei Zhong's broadsword, and a powerful pressure surged toward Chu Hen. Ren Han's 8 chains followed closely behind. 4 of them attacked Chu Hen's limbs, 2 wrapped around his neck and waist, and the other 2 attacked his chest. Boom! However, at this moment, a monstrous purple light erupted from Chu Hen's body. The vast purple light soared into the sky, shaking the surroundings and stirring up the winds and clouds. The area within a circumference of 1,000 meters trembled unceasingly. Wei Zhong and Ren Han's expression couldn't help but change. The two of them could clearly feel an indescribable pressure from Chu Hen's body. Buzz, in the next instant, 2 bewitching rays of purple light blossomed from Chu Hen's eyes. His pupils, which were originally only surging with a faint purple luster, were now especially resplendent. What? Purple eyes? How could this be? Ren Han and Wei Zhong turned pale with fright. "Don't worry about him. Kill him!" Ren Han shouted. "I know." Wei Zhong raised his saber and leaped up. He slashed at Chu Hen with an incomparably powerful attack. And in that split second, deep within Chu Hen's bewitching purple pupils, 2 tiny black dots violently swayed uneasily. Following that, the 2 black dots suddenly shifted to one side. Immediately after, a 3rd black dot astonishingly appeared in Chu Hen's pupils. 3-star demon eyes. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold. Between heaven and earth, a cyclone surged. The bewitching sharp eyes, like the light of a torch, stared at Ren Han's eyes. Plop! When he came into contact with Chu Hen's bewitching eyes, a formless special power surged forth like a fierce tiger. Ren Han's heart trembled violently. An extremely strange feeling occupied his mind. It was a moment of blurred consciousness. After a moment of blurred consciousness, Ren Han regained consciousness. His face was already showing a sinister smile. The 6 iron chains under his control had already wrapped around Chu Hen's limbs, neck and waist. Go to hell. Hiss hiss, the sharp and ear-piercing sound was unusually beautiful. The remaining 2 iron chains directly pierced through Chu Hen's chest. Looking at the dark red blood constantly spurting out, Ren Han was extremely proud and presumptuous. Ha, in my eyes, who do you think you are? The ice-cold wind blew, and the sky seemed to be a little dark. The 8 iron chains caused Chu Hen to be firmly nailed to the ground. However, there was not the slightest expression of pain on Chu Hen's face. He smiled, and his smile was extremely evil. In his pair of purple demon eyes, 3 black dots formed a triangle. It seems that you haven't noticed, but your companion has disappeared. Companion? Ren Han's heart was shocked, and his eyes suddenly surged with thick confusion. Where was Wei Zhong? He was clearly here a moment ago. Then, Ren Han's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle, and his face suddenly became as pale as a sheet. Because he found that at this moment, Chu Hen was actually standing in the same place, safe and sound. The 8 iron chains did not touch him at all. What shocked Ren Han even more was that at the end of his 8 iron chains, there was indeed a person hanging, but that person was not Chu Hen, but Wei Zhong. The 6 iron chains wrapped around Wei Zhong's limbs, neck, waist. As for the other 2, they pierced through his chest. Wei Zhong floated in the air, blood continuously spurting out of his body. His eyes were wide open, and it was clear that he had died with a grievance. What was going on? What was going on just now? Ren Han was confused. The one who had just killed Chu Hen was clearly Chu Hen, so why was the one who died now? This was too strange. Ha! A playful smile appeared on Chu Hen's face. How's the power of the 3 stars demon eyes? 3 stars demon eyes? Ren Han's hands were trembling. 3 stars demon eyes. Just as Li Wushang had said, only at the level of 3 stars and above could it be called a true eye technique. 1 star and 2 stars could only be considered the beginner level. The power of the 3 stars demon eyes was to affect the opponent's will and cause the opponent to hallucinate. Just now, when Ren Han and Chu Hen looked into each other's eyes, the demon eyes had already made Ren Han hallucinate and affected his will to kill Wei Zhong. Although Chu Hen could only affect Ren Han for an instant, at that time, the connection was just right. Demon eyes? Ren Han looked at Chu Hen in extreme fear, especially the purple demon eyes. They were like the eyes of an ancient demon god, filled with a dense aura of danger. Who are you? Go ask Yama. Chu Hen sneered, then leaped down and attacked Ren Han with the demon slayer spear, which was wrapped in a dense purple light. Ren Han's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly pushed out his palm to block the attack. Bang! A powerful aftershock swept out, and Ren Han was pushed back repeatedly. Wei Zhong's inexplicable death had already made Ren Han panic. He didn't have the slightest intention to fight anymore. Without another word, he didn't even have time to retract the iron chains. He turned around and ran as fast as he could. The most important thing now was to stay alive. Run. I have to run. Chapter 257. Run. After seeing Wei Zhong die tragically in front of him, Ren Han panicked. Without saying anything, he turned around and ran away. Naturally, Chu Hen would not let him escape just like that. Ren Han already knew his secret about the demon pupil sacred body. Keeping him alive would only add to his troubles. However, Chu Hen was almost an arrow at the end of its flight. If it was not for the fact that the demon pupil sacred body had completed its evolution at the critical moment, he was afraid that he would not be in a good situation. Moreover, Ren Han's cultivation base was at the 6th level of the core transformation realm. Under normal circumstances, it would be difficult for Chu Hen to catch up with him if he wanted to escape. Looking at Ren Han, who had already escaped hundreds of meters away, Chu Hen's face turned cold. A demonic purple light surged in the depths of his eyes. He could only use the Nirvana ray once. Although this would deplete the last bit of Chu Hen's physical strength, there was no other way. However, at this moment, an incomparably heavy and violent vibration suddenly came from the front. In the next moment, a large area of the forest in front of them was directly flattened. The mighty and vigorous aftermath spread in all directions like a torrent. Under Chu Hen's shocked gaze, Ren Han let out a panicked scream. Then, he directly spat out a mouthful of blood and drew a parabola in the air before falling heavily to the ground. Fallen leaves and dust wantonly flew into the air. This. Chu Hen lightly clenched his fists and narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, a beautiful figure slowly walked out of the chaotic smoke and dust. Pitch-black soft long hair, elegant and refined beautiful face, snow-white skin that seemed like it could be broken by the wind, bright eyes and cherry lips, beautiful and otherworldly. Miss Mengshang. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and revealed a look of surprise. At the same time, the demonic purple in his eyes quietly disappeared and returned to normal pitch-black color. The person who came was none other than Luo Mengshang, who was previously in the illusion formation at the Great Waterfall. Her beautiful eyes rippled slightly as she looked at Chu Hen and smiled faintly. After that, she pointed at Ren Han, who was lying on the ground and unable to get up. "Are you going to woo him?" Chu Hen smiled and said, "Thank you. You're welcome. I still have to thank you for helping me just now," Luo Mengchang replied. At this moment, Ren Han's face was filled with fear and disbelief. One was Chu Hen and the other was Luo Mengchang. These two people who entered the heaven ranking with the help of the earth ranking actually had such terrifying strength. "Talk to you later," Chu Hen said. Luo Mengshang nodded. "All right." After that, Chu Hen turned sideways and walked toward Ren Han, who was lying on the ground. Ren Han was shocked and furious, and his face was ghastly pale. "You can't kill me. If you kill me, Tifeng Province will not let this go, he. Chu Hen's smile was especially mocking. He said indifferently with a bit of playfulness, "Did Huang Fuliang tell you to come and kill me?" Ren Han clenched his teeth and said with a sullen face, "Yes." "Very well, give it to me." Chu Hen stretched out his right hand. What did you say?" "The token is with Huang Fuliang." Ren Han replied in a deep voice, "We will work together as a team to seize someone else's token. When the time comes, Huang Fuliang promised to give me 6 tokens. "Oh, I see." Chu Hen raised his handsome eyebrows and turned around. "Miss Mengshang, let's go." Seeing Chu Hen turn around and leave, Ren Han was shocked and surprised. He did not kill him? It seemed that his previous threat worked. After all, he was still worried about Tifeng Province. Brat. Wait until I find Huang Fuliang. Let's see how long you can live." Ren Han narrowed his eyes and scolded him in his heart. However, when Chu Hen had walked less than 10 meters away, the finger of his right hand lightly flicked. Then, a black shadow flew out from Chu Hen's hand and landed next to Ren Han. Thud! Along with the sound of something falling to the ground, Ren Han's heart trembled and his pupils shrank. It was a heavenly thunder talisman. Boom! In the next moment, a violent thunderstorm exploded behind Chu Hen. The shockingly violent power caused the ground to tremble uneasily. Dust and blood flew everywhere, and rubble mixed with minced flesh flew in all directions. As for Chu Hen, he did not even turn his head. The young man's sculpted face revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Even Luo Mengshang, who was not far away, was stunned by this sudden scene. To be honest, she really believed that Chu Hen had planned to let Ren Han go. She did not expect that in the blink of an eye, Ren Han would be blasted into smithereens. Luo Mengshang pursed her red lips. The young man in front of her, who was about the same age as her, did things so ruthlessly? Ren Han was the second genius in Tifeng Province, yet he was killed so easily. What's wrong? Chu Hen walked in front of her and saw that Luo Mengshang was in a daze, so he could not help but ask. Luo Mengshang came back to her senses and shook her head with a smile. "Nothing. After I woke up at the waterfall, I saw 3 corpses there, so I followed this path to find you." "How did you know it would be me?" "That person from the Sword Dynasty had 9 very neat wounds on his body. Only you and Bai Yue from Tensei Prefecture could cause such wounds. I do not know Bai Yue, so I believe that she would not meddle in my affairs." Chu Hen smiled. "Miss Mengshang is indeed smart." "Of course." Luo Mengshang pouted and said, "But, after you killed those 3 people, why did you leave without waiting for me to wake up?" Chu Hen spread out his hands and said helplessly, "I want to too. I met a guy from the Flame Shadow Empire called Xiao Ju. He is quite strong, so I could only drag the battle further away. After that, Chu Hen told the story of how he dealt with Xiao Ju and how he met Huang Fuliang and the others. Luo Mingshang was shocked after listening to him. So it was all because of me? Luo Mingshang's heart could not help but throb, and her eyes revealed a trace of gentleness. Thank you. You're welcome. Let's go. Okay. Chu Hen did not plan to stay here for long. Huang Fuliang had not seen Ren Han and Wei Zhong for a long time. If they returned, they might come looking for him. Although his demon pupil sacred body had broken through to the 3rd star level, he was still not proficient enough in controlling his power. As of now, Chu Hen did not want to shed all pretenses of cordiality with Huang Fuliang and have a direct confrontation. Of course, if Huang Fuliang wanted to bully him like a soft persimmon, Chu Hen would not let him bully him. Immediately, Chu Hen and Luo Mingshang left the place and headed towards the center of the 7 Souls Ancient Kingdom. Thank you, Xingchen, for your 10,000 tips. I am very grateful for your support. Logically speaking, I should have added more updates today. However, there are too many things to do during the National Day. I can only guarantee the most basic updates every day. When the National Day is over, I will definitely add more updates to express my gratitude. Chapter 258. For the next few days, Chu Hen and Luo Mingshang traveled together. Their interaction was rather relaxed, and they chatted and laughed with each other. It was somewhat similar to the leisurely and carefree atmosphere between a young couple. Although the 7 Souls Ancient Kingdom had already become history, in reality there were still many places with beautiful scenery. Moreover, for the next few days, Chu Hen and Luo Mingshang did not meet anyone. This made them forget that they were in the 6 Nations Heaven List Tournaments competition area. Several days later, a peculiar valley appeared in front of the two of them. The reason why this valley was peculiar was because it was unusually cold, and there was no sunlight at all. Thick clouds gathered above the valley, covering the sky like a dark gray magic barrier. The dark clouds pressed down, giving off an indescribable feeling of oppression. Gusts of cold wind blew in the valley, but there was an indescribable bone-piercing chill when it blew on their skin. Could this be the legendary, distant valley? Luo Mingshang's red lips parted slightly as she murmured softly. Distant valley? Chu Hen was stunned, and a look of doubt appeared on his face. Luo Mingshang nodded and said, "This is one of the more famous ruins of the 7 Souls Ancient Kingdom. It is said that this hidden valley used to be one of the great border fortresses of the 7 Souls Ancient Kingdom. In the early years of the 100 Kingdoms chaotic era, countless soldiers lost their lives here. As the saying goes, the distant valley is the middle valley, and the pit of 10,000 people. The distant valley is the middle valley, and the pit of 10,000 people." Hearing this, even Chu Hen could not help but feel an inexplicable chill. No wonder the yin qi here is so strong, so it's a pit of 10,000 people. Chu Hen sighed softly. Let's go in and have a look. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. Are you sure you want to go to this place? Luo Mingshang smiled lightly. Her bright eyes and white teeth were like the autumn water reflecting the pear blossoms. That's right. Rumor has it that there's a treasure called the Quiet Spirit Spring in the distant valley. Since we're here, why don't we go in and try our luck? Tranquil Spirit Spring. Chu Hen's eyes lit up. He had heard of such a treasure before. Supposedly, this tranquil spirit spring was formed from the blood essence and souls of a myriad of living beings, and it was nurtured in a place of extreme yin. After a few hundreds of years of condensation and advancement, it transformed into a strand of clear spring water, and it was called the Tranquil Spirit Spring. This tranquil spirit spring had many wonderful uses and was incomparably precious. It could forge bones and reshape tendons, nourish vitality, and expand the major meridians in Wu Xiu's body. It could be said that it had many benefits. However, the greatest use of the serene spirit spring was for pattern masters, Reiki energy cultivated by a pattern master originated from a person's spirit, soul, and will. On the other hand, the quiet spirit spring was formed from the essence, blood, and souls of thousands of living beings. By channeling the power of the quiet and serene spirit spring into the Niwen Palace and irrigating the street tree's foundation would be more stable and its growth would be faster. There were countless benefits to this. From the looks of it, the so-called distant valley before him indeed fulfilled the various conditions to nurture a tranquil spirit spring. Alright, let's go and take a look. However, this place is definitely not a good place. You and I have to be more careful. A trace of solemnity flashed between Chu Hen's eyebrows. Yes. Luo Mingshang replied softly. Immediately after, the two of them walked towards the entrance of the distant valley with extreme caution. The airflow in the valley was unusually cold and gloomy, and it was unknown how much colder it was outside. Even Chu Hen, whose physical strength was far stronger than ordinary people, felt a piercing chill. On the contrary, Luo Mingshang, who was beside him, seemed to be unaffected and did not feel the slightest discomfort. Chu Hen was slightly surprised. He was still quite curious about the limits of Luo Mingshang's bloodline. Moreover, the speed at which her strength was growing was also shockingly fast. In terms of realm advancement, it was much faster than Chu Hen. Feeling that Chu Hen had been staring at her, Luo Mingshang's beautiful eyes rippled, and she said softly, "Why do you keep looking at me?" Ahem. Chu Hen quickly turned his head away and coughed twice to ease the awkwardness. Nothing. Luo Mingshang pursed her small lips and muttered to herself, "If Teacher Red Lotus knew that I'm so close to you, she would definitely be furious." As the two of them continued to go deeper into the distant valley, the chilly wind that they encountered was getting more and more piercing. Moreover, there were many bones scattered in the valley, some of which belonged to humans and some of which belonged to demonic beasts. The thick dark clouds that gathered above their heads blocked the sunlight, making the dark valley seem like the legendary 9 Serenities underworld. The deeper they went, the wider the terrain of the valley became. Apart from the majestic giant mountain range, there were cliffs and broken walls everywhere. This made Chu Hen feel that the distant valley was unusual. There were many dangerous places with ups and downs, which made people feel fearful. Right at this moment, a clamor of noise entered the ears of the two of them. Chu Hen and Luo Mingshang looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. "There are others. Over there." Immediately, the two of them followed the source of the sound. When they got closer, what appeared before their eyes was a vast and flat valley. In this valley, there were many old trees that looked like they were crows growing. Every tree had a strange shape, and the branches were like monsters that were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. What was even more shocking was that there were long vines hanging from the top of each strange tree, and underneath the long vines, there were many dried-up white corpses tied to them. Corpses and bones hung on the tree. Such a strange scene would make one's hair stand on end. However, under the trees, there were many young men and women with powerful auras. They were the geniuses of the 6 nations who were competing for the heaven list. At a glance, there were people from all the dynasties. Chu Hen then raised his eyebrows, but he found that Yu Qinyu, Xiao Yan, Lin Yuan, and Shangguan Yan were also there. "Our Sacred Star team is also there. There shouldn't be a problem," said Chu Hen. Luo Mingshang nodded and said, "Okay, let's go over." Then, the two of them walked forward. As soon as they appeared, they could not help but attract the attention of most people. Chu Hen. Not far away, Yu Qinyu's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly ran over. "Chu Hen, you found this place?" When Yu Qinyu saw Luo Mingshang beside Chu Hen, she could not help but be a little surprised. "Why are the two of you together?" "Miss Qinyu." Luo Mingshang simply greeted. Yu Qinyu also nodded politely as a sign of acknowledgement. Then, Lin Yuan, Shangguan Yan, and Xiao Yan walked over one after another. "Hee, junior brother Chu Hen, you're really something. I was wondering why you were accompanied by a beauty after not seeing you for so many days." Xiao Yan went forward and gently hammered Chu Hen's shoulder. Chapter 259. What's going on here? Chu Hen asked. What? Xiao Yan replied. Junior brother Chu Hen, you want to know why this place is so peaceful, right? Lin Yuan crossed his arms in front of him and smiled indifferently. He pointed at the strange trees with white skeletons and said, to avoid destroying these spirit trees, oh. Chu Hen raised his eyebrows and asked tentatively, could it be that the tranquil spirit spring originates from these spirit trees? Junior brother Chu Hen is indeed smart. Although the tranquil spirit spring is called a spring, it is actually a liquid. Due to the small amount, we can't obtain it directly from the ground and can only collect it through these spirit trees. Basically, everyone who comes here is for the tranquil spirit spring. If these trees are destroyed, no one will be able to obtain the tranquil spirit spring. I see. Chu Hen could not help but understand. With so many people, once a chaotic battle broke out, all the spirit trees would be directly destroyed by the strong impact. It was also because of this that the geniuses of the 6 nations exchanged a short period of peace. Even so, the atmosphere was filled with a tense atmosphere. The geniuses of the various teams were carefully guarding against the others around them. Chu Hen, what have you encountered these few days? How many tokens did you collect? Yu Chenyu was especially happy to see Chu Hen. She blinked her big eyes and looked at him expectantly. The others also looked at Chu Hen curiously. Chu Hen smiled, lightly rubbed his nose and said, not a lot, just a few. A few? 3? Yu Chenyu extended 3 fingers. Chu Hen shook his head. 4? No! How many are there exactly? Yu Chenyu grabbed his arm and shook it back and forth. Alright. I'm scared of you. I'll tell you, alright? But seeing that he was asked to this extent, Chu Hen shook his head helplessly and could only answer honestly, 6. What? 6? As soon as he said this, everyone except Luo Mingshang, who already knew about it, gasped. 6 tokens, this was enough to qualify for the finals. F***CK, you're going to defy the heavens. Xiao Yan exclaimed, I've only collected 4 of them. Even the number 1 disciple of the giant elephant martial house, Lin Yuan, nodded in admiration. Haha, junior apprentice brother Chu Hen is truly fierce. I can't help but admire you. I was just lucky. The people I met were all people with average strength. Heh. Suddenly, a frivolous sneer entered everyone's ears. Junior brother Chu Hen is too modest. Xiao Ju, Ren Han and the rest are not people with ordinary strength. Junior brother Chu Hen is definitely someone who has concealed his strength. Everyone's hearts were filled with shock. Everyone looked in the same direction. A team of more than a dozen people was slowly walking towards them. The person leading the team was none other than Huang Fuliang. Hua! It's Huang Fuliang from the Sacred Star team. Huang Fuliang's appearance instantly attracted everyone's attention. The faces of the geniuses from the various dynasties slightly changed. Not only Huang Fuliang, but also the number 1 disciple of the Imperial Wind sect, Sidu Feng, and the number 1 disciple of the giant elephant martial house, Lin Yuan. With so many geniuses from the Sacred Star dynasty gathered here, it was definitely a great threat to the geniuses from the other dynasties. Huang Fuliang and Situ Feng had arrived. For Lin Yuan, Shangguan Yen and the other geniuses from the Sacred Star team, it was naturally a relatively happy event. However, what surprised them was that Huang Fuliang's entire body was emitting an oppressive aura, and Sidu Feng's face was even more gloomy. Then, Sidu Feng directly walked forward and pointed at Chu Hen. Bastard, how dare you kill Ren Han, what? Rumble. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's mind was instantly struck by lightning. Yu Chenyu, Xiao Yan, Shangguan Yen, Lin Yuan and the rest all widened their eyes in shock. Ren Han? Who is he? The second strongest person in the Tifeng province who possessed the strength of the 6th level core transformation realm. How could Chu Hen kill him? Isn't this a little too unbelievable? Seeing Sidu Feng's angry appearance, coupled with Chu Hen's calm face, it seemed that this matter was most likely true. There's also Wei Zhong. Huang Fuliang looked at Chu Hen indifferently and said in a playful tone, Wei Zhong, Ren Han, these are our companions from the Sacred Star team. Now that you've killed 2 of your companions, how are you going to take responsibility for this? An invisible pressure quietly spread out from Huang Fuliang's body. A piercingly cold airflow shocked the surrounding people, and they could not help but take half a step back. However, Chu Hen stood where he was without moving. His expression did not change in the slightest as he stared at Huang Fuliang's ice-cold gaze without any fear. I killed them, Hua! The geniuses from the other dynasties were shocked. Wei Zhong and Ren Han were top geniuses who had directly obtained a place in the sky ranking. Especially Ren Han, the geniuses from the other dynasties had heard of his name. Now that they saw Chu Hen admitting to it so readily, they were surprised that there was someone like Chu Hen in the Sacred Star dynasty. At the same time, they were happy to hear it. It seemed like the Sacred Star team's internal situation was not peaceful. To a competitor, they loved to see internal strife. It's good that you admitted it, Huang Fuliang said indifferently. However, Chu Hen paused and changed the topic. I was purely defending myself. Let me ask you, when someone wants to kill you, are you going to stand there and let them kill you? You might be stupid, but I'm not stupid. You might be stupid, but I'm not stupid. Just a few simple words were thrown in Huang Fuliang's face by Chu Hen. Lin Yuan, Xiao Yan and the others were shocked again. This was the first time someone dared to speak to Huang Fuliang in such a manner. However, Huang Fuliang was not angry. He was still smiling. However, behind this smile, there was a sharp knife hidden. You're right, but you said that they wanted to kill you. Who saw it? I saw it. A beautiful voice was heard. Luo Mengchang suddenly walked to Chu Hen's side and said, I saw the 2 idiots fighting against Chu Hen together. In the end, they were not capable and were killed by Chu Hen. The truth is that simple. Idiot? Not capable? These words really made everyone present blush with shame. If Ren Han was called an idiot, there were not many geniuses present. Seeing Luo Mengchang come out to clarify for Chu Hen, Huang Fuliang's face immediately turned gloomy. He stared at Luo Mengchang coldly and said, What's your relationship with him? Chapter 260. Why do you care? Luo Mengchang replied snappily. Huang Fuliang's face turned even uglier. Looking at how Luo Mengchang was protecting Chu Hen, a trace of jealousy flashed in his eyes. The other people around also had an expression of watching the show. Almost everyone in the Imperial Martial Academy knew that Huang Fuliang was in love with Luo Mengchang. Although Huang Fuliang had never expressed anything publicly, this matter was not a secret in the Imperial City. The surrounding air seemed to have become a bit more anxious, and the air faintly surged with a bone-piercing chill. Humph, so Ren Han and Wei Zhong died in vain? Situ Feng shouted in a deep voice. Otherwise? What else do you want? Luo Mengchang was completely speaking on behalf of Chu Hen, and the others could not interrupt. My Tifeng province will never agree. Situ Feng's eyes became colder. A war was about to break out, and it was a civil war between the Holy Star teams. On the other hand, the genius students of the other 5 dynasties were even more delighted to hear this. Senior brother Situ, please calm down. Xiao Yan saw this and quickly came forward to persuade him. As Chu Hen's senior brother, he naturally could not just stand by and watch. Senior brother Situ, Chu Hen killed Ren Han and Wei Zhong. Although it was wrong, he was forced by the situation. Now that the 6 Nations Heaven List competition is over, the overall situation is the most important. Don't talk about these principles in front of me. If I don't get justice for Ren Han today, how can I, Situ Feng, have any face left? How can my Tifeng province still have any face left? After saying that, a majestic aura directly burst out from Situ Feng's body. Situ Feng grabbed the air with one hand, and an extremely agitated green light quickly rotated in his palm. Circles of spiraling airwaves attracted the airflow in all directions. "It's none of your business, get out of here." Xiao Yan's face changed, and his eyes could not help but become cold. "Humph, senior brother Situ, don't go too far. I have already said that although Chu Hen was in the wrong, in the end, it was Ren Han and the others who provoked the disaster. Who can he blame for his death?" "Humph, it's not up to you to lecture me." Situ Feng's momentum rose, setting off an incomparably powerful aura as he pushed the cyan spiral ball of light in his palm towards Xiao Yan. Under such circumstances, even Lin Yuan, Shangguan Yen and the others could not intervene. They could only stand by and watch. In the face of his opponent's ferocious offensive pressure, Xiao Yan's eyebrows tightly knitted together. Even though his ranking in the Tensei Prefecture was second only to Ji Xian, Situ Feng was the genuine #1 person in the Imperial Wind Prefecture. After consuming the Earth Star Boundary Gathering Pill, his cultivation had significantly increased, directly stepping into the Dan Transformation Stage 7th level. Xiao Yan, on the other hand, was only at the peak of the 5th order. The difference between them was rather obvious. However, with his determination, Xiao Yan was not afraid at all. However, at this moment, a rapid trembling sound of air waves spread out, and everyone only saw a purple shadow flash before their eyes. Soon after, with a heavy bang sound, the scattered primordial qi wantonly splattered everywhere. The cyan ball of light in Situ Feng's palm was directly shattered into pieces. Immediately after, the scene in front of everyone caused their pupils to shrink. They saw that Situ Feng and Xiao Yan did not start a fierce collision, and in the middle of the two, there was already a young and fierce figure. "Senior brother Xiao Yan, you should step back. This is my, Chu Hen's, matter, there is no need for others to stand up for me." His indifferent tone revealed an unconcealable sharpness. Chu Hen stood in front of Xiao Yan, and his left fist, which was surrounded by circles of golden-red illusory flames, actually took Situ Feng's right palm head-on. A vigorous and boundless overbearing aura rose and surged from within Chu Hen's body. Within his pair of ice-cold eyes, a dense and cold glint flickered like a sharp sword. Hiss! Seeing this scene, everyone finally believed that Chu Hen had the ability to kill Ren Han, Wei Zhong, and the others. Relying on the strength of a 4th-stage core transformation realm warrior to take Situ Feng's attack head-on, everyone was secretly shocked. How strong was Chu Hen's body? Luo Mingshang, Yu Qinyu, Xiao Yan, and the others all had a dignified expression on their faces. On the other side, Huang Fuliang couldn't help but squint his eyes, and a cold light flashed in the corner of his eyes. "Stinking brat, you're courting death." Situ Feng's face was gloomy and somewhat blue, and the primordial qi in his body continuously formed a dark force that attacked Chu Hen. The surging dark force collided like two undercurrents under the water. The ground under the feet of the two people quickly opened up numerous dense deep cracks. The blood vessels on Chu Hen's left arm bulged, and the illusory flame lingering on his arm collided with the green radiance around his opponent's body. Then, with a boom sound, a heavy shockwave swept out along with a powerful shockwave. Chu Hen and Situ Feng, both of them, were pushed back several meters. Being able to fight evenly with Situ Feng, Chu Hen's strength was really surprising. "Chu Hen, are you okay?" Yu Qinyu quickly stepped forward and asked, and there was still a trace of concern in her beautiful eyebrows. Chu Hen slightly wrinkled his brows, and his slightly trembling arm gently clenched into a fist, and replied in a deep voice, "I'm fine." Looking at Situ Feng's side, his arm was also slightly pale, and there was an ominous glint in his eyes. "Little bastard, today I want to see what kind of ability you have." Boom! Situ Feng's killing intent stacked up, and his surging true elemental energy stacked up, and the huge power was comparable to the raging torrent. The surrounding people retreated one after another. They were really looking forward to the upcoming internal battle of the Saint Star team. "Ha ha ha ha, there's a good show to watch." It seems that I, cheating, have come at the right time. Just at this moment, an arrogant voice suddenly rang out. Cheating? The geniuses of the Rock Dynasty suddenly became excited. In the next moment, a figure with an imposing aura continuously dragged a series of afterimages in the air and steadily landed on a huge rock. It was a burly young man, nearly 2 meters tall, and his strong muscles contained a strong power that almost tore his clothes apart. This person was none other than the leader of the Rock Dynasty team, the top genius who possessed the golden sand body, Cheating. Cheating's appearance made the geniuses of the Boulder Dynasty feel reassured. After all, Huang Fuliang, Lin Yuan, Situ Feng, and many other geniuses of the Saint Star Dynasty were here. After the internal conflict was over, the tokens in the hands of the others would be in danger. Cheating's arrival at least broke the dominance of the Saint Star team. Hey Huang Fuliang, you guys continue. I'm just here to watch the show, Cheating said. A cold light flashed in Huang Fuliang's eyes, and a sneer appeared on his face. He then said loudly, The other two, since you're here, why don't you show yourselves? What? Everyone's heart was shocked again. Swoosh, along with a rapid wind breaking momentum, a biting cold sharp sword momentum suddenly rushed towards everyone's face. I say Cheating, you came out too early. It's better to watch the show before coming out. Buzz! A frivolous, ridiculing voice entered everyone's ears, and then a figure that was as sharp as a sword steadily landed on another huge rock. Qin Yingxiao is here. Qin Yingxiao of the Sword Dynasty. Following that, a beautiful woman with gentle footsteps slowly walked over from another direction. This woman looked delicate and weak, and she had a harmless face. Especially her innocent big eyes, it was enough to make many people feel pity and protect her. Lu Qi of the Misty Wind Empire. Wow! The appearance of Cheating, Qin Yingxiao, and Lu Qi, the three leaders instantly disrupted the situation. The geniuses of the Giant Rock Empire, the Sword Dynasty, and the Misty Wind Empire were pleasantly surprised, and their faces were filled with excitement. The people of the Flame Shadow Empire and the Tian Luo Empire looked around, but Pang Ao and Yi Buji's figures did not appear. If that was the case, the four strongest leading geniuses of the 6 great dynasties met each other on a narrow path. Why? Since we're here, aren't you guys going to continue the internal conflict? Qin Yingxiao rubbed his chin and said with a playful smile. The people of the Saint Star Empire slightly frowned. If Situ Feng had picked a fight with Chu Hen because of a moment of anger, it seemed like he was being treated as a spectator. Humph, our Saint Star team will settle our own matters. You don't have to worry about it, Huang Fuliang replied coldly. Ha 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 ha. Cheating laughed loudly. He pointed at Chu Hen and said, Huang Fuliang, this junior brother's talent is exceptional and monstrous. If you don't kill him now, he will surpass you in no time. At that time, you won't be able to keep your position as the number 1 in the Saint Star Empire. Hee, that's right. Qin Yingxiao agreed. Let's settle this quickly. Otherwise, who will recognize you in a few years? It's better to kill a disaster in the cradle. The two of them echoed each other and pushed Chu Hen to the heart of the struggle. Chu Hen was in an awkward situation. He could neither move forward nor retreat. No matter what choice Huang Fuliang made, Chu Hen would not be able to escape unscathed. Putting aside the fact that the geniuses of the other empires had noticed Chu Hen, Huang Fuliang and Situ Feng would not give up so easily. Ren Han and Wei Zhong were killed. This was Huang Fuliang's reason or excuse to target Chu Hen. However, just when the atmosphere on the scene became more and more subtle and strange, Rumble! With a loud sound, the ground immediately trembled uneasily for a moment. Along with an extremely strange energy ripple, the ghost-like Een spirit trees blossomed with a brilliant white light. A cold wind suddenly blew, and every single gray leaf swayed like a wind chime. Everyone's ears rang with a subtle and ethereal flute sound. Chapter 261. Suddenly, a cold wind blew in the Lee Valley. The hundreds of ghost trees, which looked like ghosts and had white skeletons hanging on them, suddenly shone with a strange white light. Then, every single dark gray leaf started to shake non-stop. The ethereal sound that was like the sound of a flute drifted into everyone's ears, pouring into their minds and plucking at their heartstrings. Immediately, under the excited gazes of the crowd, specks of light rose from the ghost trees and floated toward the sky above the Lee Valley. If one were to observe carefully, one would notice that these specks of light were actually drops of spiritual liquid that were like raindrops. At a glance, there were thousands of drops of spiritual liquid floating dozens of meters in the sky. In this dim valley, they were as bright and dazzling as stars. Every drop of the liquid swayed with a translucent luster, and a peculiar energy fluctuation that could penetrate one's heart was released from the liquid. "It's the spiritual liquid of tranquil spiritual liquid," a voice full of excitement suddenly exploded in the crowd. Boom! In the next moment, everyone activated their Yuan Dawn and released powerful True Yuan. Without saying anything, they directly rushed toward the spiritual liquid of tranquil spiritual liquid. Everyone's attention shifted from Chu Hen to the thousands of drops of spiritual liquid in the sky above the Lee Valley. Huang Fuliang, Qi Ting, Qin Yingxiao and Lu Qi, the four strongest geniuses who were the team leaders, were the first to rush forward. Sidu Feng glanced coldly at Chu Hen and said, "Humph, I'll deal with you later." After saying that, Sidu Feng moved and followed behind Huang Fuliang. "Chu Hen, let's leave now," Yu Chenyu said quickly. Xiao Yan, Luo Mingshang and Lin Yuan also looked at each other. Chu Hen thought for a while and said decisively, "If you want to leave, at least take the spiritual liquid of tranquil spiritual liquid. But don't worry, the Lee Valley is surrounded by dangerous mountains, and there are many cliffs. If I want to leave, I believe that no one can stop me." Chu Hen replied confidently. Everyone could not help but be stunned. Xiao Yan was the first to react. "Haha! I nearly forgot about your purple shadow wings." In the blink of an eye, everyone rushed into the depths of the strange ghost forest. The gentle gaze of Lu Qi from the Misty Kingdom suddenly focused, and then she pressed her palms together while her red lips opened slightly and shouted in a light voice. "Water waterfall! Buzz!" As soon as Lu Qi finished his words, an enormous water shockwave spread out in all directions with Lu Qi as the center. A powerful torrent, like a stormy sea, swept out with a sweeping momentum. Apart from the geniuses of the Misty Wind Empire, the geniuses of the other empires were pushed back. Wow, the crowd was caught off guard. They were like ducks that had fallen into the water, hitting the surface of the water and making noises. "Hey, junior sister Lu Qi, are you trying to keep the tranquil spiritual liquid to yourself?" Rock Ting Qi chuckled, and a rich golden light surged out of his body. Then, Qi Ting slapped the ground vertically with his hand. Heavenly rock cloud ladder gate. Rumble, accompanied by the violent shaking of the earth. A towering four-sided rock wall soared into the sky, rising from the ground like bamboo shoots after a rain. The thick stone door rose to a height of more than 20 meters and a width of 10 meters. Bang! The mighty torrent of water whistled over, but it was difficult to knock down the rock wall and split it from both sides. Water splashed everywhere, wind and waves overlapped. Qi Ting leaped up and flew to the top of the rock wall. Then, he stretched out his palms and grabbed towards the tranquil spiritual liquid that was floating in the air. "Blockhead, I don't think you're any better." Sword Emperor Qin Yingxiao's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. With a flash of white light, a sharp sword appeared in his hand. With a flick of his wrist, a silver sword light that was dozens of meters wide shot out horizontally, setting off an extremely powerful aura as it solidly slashed towards the rock wall below Qi Ting. Bang! The terrifying sword energy was extremely astonishing, and the sound of the power converging was like a thunderstorm. The rock was directly smashed into pieces by Qin Yingxiao's sword. Qi Ting, who was standing on top of the rock, suddenly lost his balance and shouted in a deep voice, Qi Ningxiao, what do you mean by this? Nothing, I just can't stand you showing off your martial skills here. F***ck off. Qi Ting was still angry. With a flip of his body, he directly punched towards Qi Ningxiao in front of him. In an instant, the wantonly collapsed rocks quickly gathered together, forming a huge rock fist that was 2 meters wide. The violent might caused the space to tremble a little. This extremely intimidating rock fist fiercely smashed towards Qi Ningxiao. Humph! Qi Ningxiao coldly snorted. His sword danced, and his body spun at a high speed, taking advantage of the momentum. The sharp sword energy was like a tornado as it met the attack. Boom! Waves of air trembled in midair, and the space was in chaos. Sword energy splashed everywhere, and rocks burst out. The confrontation between the two was like the collision of 2 mountains, shaking in all directions. Swoosh! At this moment, Huang Fuliang had already taken advantage of the moment when Qi Ting and Qi Ningxiao were fighting and flashed into the sky. Just when he was about to collect the tranquil spiritual liquid, there was a buzzing sound. 2 spiral water pillars flew up from below like raging sea dragons, whistling from the left and right. Humph, junior sister Lu Qi, I didn't provoke you, Huang Fuliang said coldly. Lu Qi shook her head. I didn't do it on purpose. Her delicate voice, coupled with her big innocent eyes, could really melt any man's heart. If it was anyone else, they would not dare to believe that the harmless, innocent-looking Lu Qi was the leader of the Misty Wind Empire. However, even though she said that she did not do it on purpose, the 2 spiraling water pillars that were attacking Huang Fuliang became increasingly faster and more powerful. Wrath of the Dragon Roar! Huang Fuliang shouted. Roar, a majestic and domineering dragon roar suddenly resounded in everyone's ears. The clear dragon roar caused everyone's heart to tremble. A piercingly cold and powerful aura surged out of Huang Fuliang's body. An illusory golden dragon silhouette hovered around Huang Fuliang's body, and a vast halo bloomed like ripples on the surface of the water. Bang! Before the 2 spiral-shaped water pillars could even get close to Huang Fuliang, they exploded into thousands of sparkling water droplets. The competition between the top geniuses of the 4 leaders shook the entire secluded valley. Even the thick black clouds that had gathered above the valley were violently surging and restless. The vast and mighty surging aura was like the surging tide of black water. The 4 of them were fighting for power. Lin Yuan, Situ Feng, Xiao Yan, Luo Mingshang, and the other geniuses from the other dynasties also took advantage of the chaos to fight for the tranquil spiritual liquid. For a time, the peace in the desert valley was broken, and an intense battle broke out. The aftermath of the violent chaotic energy wantonly splashed everywhere, and the ghost trees that had skeletons and corpses hanging on them were cut in half, and their branches and leaves were flying everywhere. Hua! A surging water pillar carried Lu Qi to the sky. She raised her jade-like hand and held the 20 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid in front of her. Then, Lu Qi flipped her other hand and flipped out an empty glass bottle. Lu Qi then poured the few drops of tranquil spiritual liquid into the bottle. Golden Sand Bridge! Giant Rock Qi Ting lightly shouted, only to see dense golden sand fluttering in the air. The fine sand instantly turned into a sturdy arch bridge. Qi Ting stepped on the sand bridge and reached out his hand to put the 12 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid into his bag. On the other side, the Sword Dynasty's Qi Ningxiao was not to be outdone. The sharp sword in his hand trembled and let out a soft cry. The flickering sword light dragged a string of sword shadows in the air. Qi Ningxiao withdrew his sword, and on the body of the sword, there was a row of crystal-clear tranquil spiritual liquid drops. Huang Fuliang's speed was also extremely fast. He did not show any weakness as he put the drops of tranquil spiritual liquid into his bag. There were 2,000 to 3,000 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid floating in the sky above the secluded valley. However, if they were evenly distributed, each person would not even get 10 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid. Moreover, it was absolutely impossible to evenly distribute the tranquil spiritual liquid. It was destined that some of the weaker people would not be able to obtain this precious treasure. Under normal circumstances, only an expert whose strength had reached the 5th level of the core transformation realm or above could stay in the air for a very short period of time. Obviously, there were not many people who could reach this level. Only a small number of people had the ability to compete for the tranquil spiritual liquid. In order to obtain this tranquil spiritual liquid, it could be said that everyone was using their own strength. All kinds of gorgeous skills and secret techniques bloomed with dazzling light. It was like a divine rainbow, which made the originally dark, secluded valley look gorgeous and bright. Humph, get out of my way. Sidu Feng sent 4 competitors flying with a palm strike. Relying on his superior strength, he directly arrived in front of the tranquil spiritual liquid. In this area, there were more than 30 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid floating in front of him. In the face of such a large amount of tranquil spiritual liquid, Sidu Feng's face revealed a somewhat proud expression. However, just as Sidu Feng was about to put the tranquil spiritual liquid into his bag, a purple shadow suddenly swept across the sky and flew past him. In the next moment, the 30 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid in front of him disappeared without a trace. "It's you again, you damned bastard!" Sidu Feng was quite angry when he saw the person in front of him. The pair of purple light wings on Chu Hen's back was glittering brightly like a colored glaze. Facing Sidu Feng's fiery eyes, Chu Hen didn't care at all. He calmly put more than 30 drops of tranquil spiritual liquid into an empty bottle. "Bastard, if you don't want to die now, immediately hand over the tranquil spiritual liquid." Sidu Feng's eyes were filled with cold killing intent. Chapter 262. "I'm sorry, I'll take this pure spirit liquid." In the face of Sidu Feng's furious eyes, Chu Hen didn't care in the slightest as he took the tranquil spiritual liquid that he had snatched from the other party's eyes and put it into an empty bottle. "You're courting death." Sidu Feng was furious and his murderous aura rose. Finished speaking, Sidu Feng suddenly pushed out a palm, and that surging cyan-colored palm power was like a raging tide of rage as it rolled towards Chu Hen. "Humph, do you think I'm afraid of you?" Chu Hen raised his hand and a long spear appeared in his hand. The fierce spear directly broke the surging palm force from the middle, and then with the speed of lightning, it pierced towards Sidu Feng's throat. Sidu Feng did not think that Chu Hen would really dare to fight with him, and if he was on the ground, Sidu Feng naturally would not have the slightest scruples, but after all, he had not reached the void-piercing realm, so he could not stay in the air for too long. So in the face of Chu Hen's purple shadow wings, it was inevitable that he would suffer some losses. In the blink of an eye, Chu Hen's Devil Punisher spear had already arrived in front of him. The spear was surrounded by a strong black aura and exuded an extremely overbearing aura. Sidu Feng's complexion slightly changed. He knew that he couldn't avoid this attack, so he clenched his teeth and stretched out his right hand's middle finger and index finger. A cyan light burst out from his fingertips and transformed into a sword shadow. Then, it directly collided with the tyrannical spear light. Bang! As soon as the two collided, a circle of vigorous cyan and black ripples suddenly appeared in the air, and a powerful airflow spread in all directions. Relying on the balance of the purple shadow wings and the momentum of the dive, Chu Hen's Devil Punisher spear directly smashed the sword shadow released by Sidu Feng, and then a powerful force pressed down on Sidu Feng. "Damn it," Sidu Feng cursed. He could not find a point of leverage in the air. After all, he was still at a disadvantage. However, as the number 1 in Tifeng province, how could he be an ordinary person? He quickly operated the Yuan Dan in his body, and his imposing aura stacked up like a tsunami. A circle of cyan light lingered on Sidu Feng's arms, and then he waved his hands in front of his body, and a thick layer of cyan light curtain appeared in front of him. Bang! The Demon Slayer's spear heavily smashed against the green light screen, causing the light screen to ripple like the surface of water. You want to break through my defense with just this bit of ability? You're really overestimating yourself. Taking advantage of this brief moment, Sidu Feng quickly stabilized his body in midair, and then an even more powerful berserk chi quickly surged out of his body. However, just as Sidu Feng was preparing to launch a big move to kill Chu Hen, a strand of bewitching obscure purple light surged within Chu Hen's pupils. In the deepest part of his pupils, there were 3 tiny black dots that formed a triangle. Buzz, when Sidu Feng's eyes met with Chu Hen's eyes, an invisible special force invaded him from all directions. Sidu Feng's heart involuntarily trembled, and an inexplicable strange force poured into his mind. Sidu Feng's consciousness became blurred for a moment, and the circulation of his true yuan also stagnated for a moment. However, in just this moment of stagnation, the Demon Slayer spear in Chu Hen's hand had already broken through the opponent's defense layer, and the cyan light screen was smashed into pieces. The biting cold spear fell down, and the 3 feet long spear light directly bombarded Sidu Feng's body. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded in the sky, and the violent shockwave rushed into Sidu Feng's body. The latter felt as if he had been hit by a mountain, and then he flashed down from the sky. Bang! Sidu Feng heavily landed on the ground, and the dust flew everywhere. He was forced back nearly 10 steps before he was able to stabilize his body. The scene in front of them attracted the attention of countless people in the surroundings. Many people had clearly seen the exchange between Chu Hen and Sidu Feng. Lin Yuan, Xiao Yan, Yu Chenyu, and the others were even more shocked. Chu Hen actually repelled Sidu Feng from the sky. Unbelievable. It was really unbelievable. Although Chu Hen had the advantage of the purple shadow wings in the air, there was still a gap of 3 levels between them. Not to mention, his opponent was Sidu Feng. Although Sidu Feng wasn't injured, he was still hit by a 4th-order core transformation stage martial artist from the sky, which made Sidu Feng feel embarrassed. What the hell is going on? Sidu Feng clenched his fists, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. How could I be absent-minded just now? What was even more strange was that in that split second when Sidu Feng was lost in his thoughts, a vague image seemed to have flashed through his mind. That vague image looked like a pair of purple eyes. Was that Chu Hen's secret technique? But the opposite party's eyes didn't seem to be anything special. Sidu Feng was confused. However, he didn't know that Chu Hen's eyes were sealed by Li Wushang at the Qishan Mountain. The change in the color of the eyes was not too obvious, and coupled with the color of the purple shadow wings on Chu Hen's back, no one was able to notice the change in Chu Hen's eyes. Soon, the clear serene spirit liquid floating in the sky was completely snatched. After the clear serene spirit liquid was snatched, the geniuses began to fight again. The formidable power caused all the Een Soul trees to be destroyed. Rumble! Suddenly, when the last Een Soul tree was destroyed, the whole valley suddenly became violently turbulent. The earth trembled and the mountains swayed. Everyone's heart skipped a beat, and their faces were filled with confusion. What's going on? Then, under the astonished eyes of countless people, the earth began to crack, and the thick black clouds in the sky began to violently roll. A piercingly cold wind swept out, and the cold airflow caused the hairs on everyone's body to stand on end. The sky changed color, and the wind and clouds surged. Everyone stopped fighting, and a dignified look appeared on their faces. This kind of feeling was like some kind of terrifying beast that had been dormant for thousands of years was about to wake up, and it made everyone tremble with fear. Rumble! The earth quickly cracked, and the moist soil rose up. Black tree branches and leaves emerged from the ground. The thick and strong branches were as strong and sturdy as a horned dragon. Everyone couldn't stand still, and their hearts were filled with shock. Following that, the lush branches continued to grow outwards, and under everyone's incredulous gazes, an incomparably huge towering tree emerged from the ground. Fresh soil was spread out on the ground. This was a 100 meters tall Een Soul tree, and its huge crown looked like a giant mushroom. The lush gray branches and leaves exuded a faint soft light, and the dark trunk was covered with cracks. Chapter 263. Rumble. The mountains trembled and the earth shook. However, what shocked everyone the most was the hearts of the crowd. It was a spirit tree that was nearly 100 meters tall. Furthermore, it was a spirit tree that emerged from the ground. The dark tree trunk was covered with cracks, and the lush gray leaves were swaying with a faint, soft light. The huge mushroom-like canopy was exceptionally magnificent. However, what gave the crowd the most was the endless strange aura. Buzz, buzz, then, without waiting for everyone to recover from their shock, they saw the ghost tree's trunk emit a gentle luster. The sparkling and translucent luster overflowed from the gaps in the bark. It was a clear spring. That is, the crowd was a little dumbfounded. Looking at the spring water that gushed out from the tree's bark, everyone's eyes widened with excitement. Tranquil spirit spring water, this is the real spirit spring water. Feeling the pure energy emitted from the spring water, everyone's heartbeat sped up. The amount of spirit spring water that everyone was fighting for could not be compared to the amount in front of them. Previously, it was spirit spring water, now it was spirit spring water. The tranquil spirit spring water that gathered in the tree's bark covered the 100 meters tall spirit tree. Even Huang Fuliang, Lu Qi, Qi Ningxiao, and Qi Ting could not maintain their calm. After a short moment of shock, the crowd immediately set off a frenzy of excitement. Without hesitation, they rushed toward the giant spirit tree. Charge! The tranquil spirit spring water is mine. Snatch it! However, the ground that had not yet calmed down shook even more violently. The thick dark clouds that gathered above the serene valley rolled and surged. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping and thousands of cowhide drums were beating at the same time. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder intersected. The sudden gale roared as if the sky was about to collapse. Chu Hen's eyebrows wrinkled as he forcefully stopped his footsteps approaching the ghost tree. He only felt that everyone was about to face a great disaster. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, slender gray vines suddenly flew out from the spirit tree. The crowd that was running in front was caught off guard and were directly entangled by the vines. What's the situation? Hurry up and tear off these vines. More and more gray vines lashed out like long whips, entangling the limbs of the people in front of them before quickly wrapping around their bodies. Everyone continued to struggle and resist, but the vines were terrifyingly flexible. They were impervious to fire and water, and even swords were unable to cut them. Help! Help! With a panicked shout, a man from the Flame Shadow Empire was wrapped up by the gray vines from top to bottom, from head to tail, into something similar to a silkworm cocoon. What followed was an incomparably shrill scream. The scream only lasted for about 2 seconds before the cocoon stopped moving. Bright red blood spurted out from the gaps of the vines. Oh my God! The appearance of this scene caused everyone's faces to turn pale with fright. At this moment, everyone seemed as if they'd awoken from a dream, and they suddenly understood exactly how the corpses and skeletons that hung on the ghost tree were caused. It turned out that everyone had overlooked such an obvious problem from the very beginning. When everyone saw the tranquil spirit liquid, they all forgot about the hidden danger in the Separation Valley. Everyone suddenly realized that the spirit trees that were destroyed in the chaotic battle just now were merely the exposed branches of the huge spirit tree in front of them. The truth was that the ghost tree was a tree that killed people. Swoosh, 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 countless slender gray vines flew out from the trunk of the ghoul tree. One after another, geniuses were tightly entangled. They were wrapped into a cocoon and lost their lives within. Soon, one after another vine cocoon was hung under the tree, and scarlet red blood flowed out and flowed down. Go, retreat! Everyone from the Boulder Dynasty, retreat! Qi Ting shouted loudly. Everyone from the Sword Dynasty, retreat! Qi Ning smiled and reminded. Lu Qi and Huang Fuliang also ordered everyone to retreat. In an instant, the entire separation valley fell into an unprecedented chaos. Run! Go! The whole place was in chaos, and the thick black clouds in the sky pressed down majestically. The geniuses of the various dynasties fled in all directions. Rumble! Following that, an even more shocking scene ensued. With the ghost tree as the center, the ground within a radius of more than 100 meters suddenly caved in, and a deep and dark crack appeared. The ground immediately cracked, as if it was hit by an earthquake. The bottomless abyss formed a circle, trapping everyone in the middle. Some people who were caught unprepared fell into the crack, and were crushed by the moving rock layers. The ghost tree's life-reaping vines continued to take the lives of the people behind it. Everyone tried their best to cross the crack in front of them, avoid the life-reaping vines, and escape. Most of them could only take care of themselves, and it was difficult for them to care about others. Mengshang, senior brother Xiao Yan, you two take young lady Qinyu, I will bring up the rear. Chu Hen said. I know. Xiao Yan replied. Be careful, Luo Mengshang said. Immediately, Luo Mengshang was on the left, Xiao Yan on the right, and Yu Qinyu, who was the weakest among them, was in the middle. Swoosh, swoosh, 5 or 6 life-reaping vines flew over like poisonous snakes. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and he put away the demon Punisher's spear, summoning the limitless Fang. With a wave of the black saber, a long and narrow saber light shot out like a crescent moon. The incomparably powerful saber aura was domineering, and the flying life-reaping vines were all cut off by Chu Hen. Rumble! At this moment, the thick black clouds above everyone's head began to spin like a millstone, like a nebula vortex, and the momentum was mighty, shaking the heavens and earth. On the ground, thick black smoke suddenly rose from the cracks in the earth. The sky and the earth resonated with each other. The dense black fog from above and below began to converge. With the ghost tree as the center, the black fog rising from the ground in all directions began to converge with the dark clouds above the valley at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sky turned dark and the earth trembled. Looking from afar, the area of a few hundred meters around the ghost tree was about to form a huge birdcage, and anyone who was trapped in it would have no way out. Hurry, go under Chu Hen's cover. Luo Mengshang, Xiao Yan, and Yu Qinyu successfully reached the edge of the black fog. The black fog was extremely cold, and there was a bone-chilling coldness. Luo Mengshang and Xiao Yan each struck out a palm, and the black fog in front of them was pushed back. What appeared in front of them was the deep and dark abyss. It was about 10 to 20 meters wide from the opposite side. Miss Qinyu, stand firm. Luo Mengshang and Xiao Yan did not say much, and each held on to Yu Qinyu's sides as they leaped up and dashed towards the opposite side. However, the black fog below them once again surged out from the ground. Damn it! Xiao Yan's expression changed. The sudden surge of strange black fog had invaded him, causing the true origin energy in his body to circulate much more slowly. At this moment, a gentle palm force surged from behind and steadily pushed the three of them forward. Chu Hen. Yu Qinyu's beautiful eyes lit up, and she turned to look at the young figure behind her. Chu Hen smiled slightly, and then released the purple shadow wings, and a pair of purple light wings appeared behind his back. Chapter 264. Rumble, in the valley of the Li Valley, a pit within a pit of tens of thousands. The sudden and unexpected event caused the entire desert gorge to fall into an unprecedented upheaval and panic. The black clouds gathered in the sky above the valley surged down like a tidal wave. With the Een Spirit Tree as the center, in all directions of the broken rock layer abyss, a thick black fog rose wantonly. It connected with the demonic Een Chi in the sky, forming a giant birdcage. In front of them was the black fog, and behind them was the Een Spirit vines. The geniuses of the various empires were all in a state of escape. Go, just as Chu Hen used the soft palm force to send Luo Mengshang, Xiao Yan, and Yu Qinyu away, a deadly vine flew out of nowhere and directly wrapped around Chu Hen's right ankle. Once the extremely flexible gray vine wrapped around Chu Hen's right leg, it instantly tightened and immediately pulled him back. Chu Hen, Yu Qinyu, Luo Mingshang, and Xiao Yan, who had already successfully reached the opposite side of the crack, turned around and saw the scene in front of them. They were all shocked. Ancient tree, vine. Yu Qinyu shouted, then gently raised her hands. Along with a strong life aura, several verdant tree vines flew out from her palms and attacked Chu Hen. Chu Hen, grab my tree vines, however, before Yu Qinyu's ancient tree vines could reach Chu Hen's side, the dense black fog from the crack in the ground soared into the sky. When the verdant ancient tree vines came into contact with the overbearing black fog, they directly withered. Immediately after, the monstrous black fog devil barrier instantly blocked Chu Hen within it. Chu Hen! Junior brother Chu Hen! The few people's faces changed dramatically. Xiao Yan's brows were tightly knitted, his eyes filled with a dignified look. Luo Mingshang clenched her jade-like hands, her knuckles faintly turning white. Don't die like this. The yin qi in the sky rolled down, and the yin qi in the ground rose up. The huge black birdcage gradually took shape. The incomparably tough vines seemed to have the strength of tens of thousands of kilograms, constantly dragging Chu Hen towards the ghost tree. What was even worse was that there were still 7 or 8 life-seizing vines heading their way. Each of them was like a giant gray python, abnormally horrifying. Chu Hen hurriedly steadied himself. He raised his hand and brandished the limitless tooth in his hand. The sharp blade force slashed out and directly cut off the vine under his feet. Following that, the purple shadow wings on his back shone brightly as he flew forward. Chu Hen's speed was extremely fast. Looking at the black fog barrier that was close at hand, he felt slightly relieved. As long as he could break through this barrier, he would be able to escape from death. However, just as Chu Hen raised his black saber and was about to break through the thick fog in front of him, boom! A violent airflow shook, and a resplendent golden net of light appeared in front of Chu Hen without any warning. This is? Chu Hen turned pale with fright. Caught off guard, he was immediately enveloped by this golden net of light. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. In the next moment, the life-seizing vines that were chasing him took the opportunity to wrap around Chu Hen's limbs and waist. The heavy feeling that was comparable to thousands of kilograms of chains instantly spread throughout his body. Chu Hen's pupils shrank, and from the corner of his eyes, he saw a familiar young figure standing not far away. The young figure was looking at him with a mocking smile, and his eyebrows were clearly filled with pride. Huang Fu Liang. Chu Hen roared angrily. Hee. The cold and proud smile on the young man's face became more and more intense. He waved his hand at Chu Hen and replied in a frivolous tone. Goodbye. It turned out that Huang Fu Liang had been hiding nearby since the beginning, waiting for an opportunity to make his move. To others, this was a great escape. However, to Huang Fu Liang, it was a great opportunity to get rid of Chu Hen. He did it effortlessly, and no one saw that he was the one who did it. No one knew. Swoosh, swoosh, in the blink of an eye, Chu Hen's entire body was tightly wrapped by the gray life-seizing vines, from his legs to his waist, chest, neck, head. A second before his line of sight was about to be blocked, a strong killing intent exploded from Chu Hen's ice-cold eyes. Huang Fu Liang, if I don't die today, I will definitely make your entire family grieve. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Hen was completely wrapped into a cocoon. Soon after, he was quickly dragged back and hung under the ghost tree. You want to go against me, Huang Fu Liang? In your next life? Seeing that Chu Hen was completely trapped by the ghost tree, a cold smile appeared on Huang Fu Liang's face. It was impossible for Chu Hen to survive. Immediately, Huang Fu Liang did not dare to stay any longer. As he dodged the attack of the life-seizing vines, an intense, dazzling golden light burst out from his body. A deep dragon roar emitted a majestic aura. An illusory dragon shadow lingered around Huang Fu Liang's body. His body moved, and under the protection of the dragon shadow, he directly passed through the thick and overbearing black fog and steadily arrived at the outer safe zone. Rumble! The sky was dark and the sun and moon were dim. A bone-piercing cold air filled the entire desert valley. The geniuses of the various empires stood far away on the surrounding mountains as their hearts were filled with palpitations of surviving a calamity. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear as they looked in front of them. The demonic barrier in the sky and the Een energy in the ground had completely fused together. From afar it looked like a huge blackbird's nest. Around the bird's nest, Een energy rose and filled the air. The huge ghost tree was shrouded in it, and the souls that were hanging under the ghost tree were also shrouded in it. The geniuses of the various dynasties who had escaped from death let out a long sigh of relief. What happened just now was too thrilling. Senior Brother Cheating, what's going on? A young lady from the Boulder Empire asked with lingering fear. Cheating's eyes narrowed as he shook his head and said, "The desert valley has existed since the early days of the Seven Souls' ancient kingdom. Back then, there were endless wars and fires of war, and tens of thousands of living beings lost their lives here. I think that the lingering spirits must have gathered here and transformed into that ghost tree." Everyone was secretly shocked. The ghost tree that was formed by tens of thousands of souls had gathered such a huge amount of Een energy. "Let's go. I'm afraid the Een energy there won't dissipate for at least half a year." Cheating was the first to give up on the tranquil spiritual spring. Even he could not last too long in the huge black fog of Een energy, not to mention that the life-seizing vines on the ghost tree were too troublesome to deal with. Subsequently, the Wind Mist Empire's Lu Qi and the Sword Empire's Qin Ingshao also led their teams and left. After such a soul-stirring incident, everyone's hearts were in a mess. For the time being, they were not in the mood to fight for the tokens in other people's hands. The atmosphere on the Sacred Star team's side was a lot weirder. Did Chu Hen not come out? Giant Elephant Lin Yuan frowned with a puzzled look on his face. Humph, what a surprise. Sidu Feng's tone was frivolous as a gloating smile appeared on his face. Not far away, Yu Qinyu's delicate body trembled slightly. She clenched her jade-like hands tightly and bit her red lip. Her eyes became moist unconsciously. "It's all my fault." Yu Qinyu's eyes were filled with self-blame. If it was not for her, Chu Hen would have no problem escaping. "Don't blame yourself, it was just an accident." Xiao Yan's eyebrows were also filled with regret. Chu Hen's death, some people were happy, while others were sad. Huang Fuliang raised his eyebrows and said indifferently, "Let's go." The geniuses from the various empires left, and the Sacred Star team naturally did not stay any longer. Lin Yuan stepped forward and comforted Yu Qinyu and the rest. "Don't be too sad, staying here is not a solution." The spirit tree was completely sealed by the endless black fog. Even if they continued to stay, it would be of no use. Xiao Yan sighed softly and turned around to leave. Yu Qinyu's eyes were filled with tears, and she resisted the urge to cry. Junior sister Mengchang. Lin Yuan saw that Luo Mengchang was still standing in the same place, and could not help but call out softly. Luo Mengchang turned her head and replied indifferently. "You guys go first. I won't be with you guys." "Oh? Why?" Huang Fuliang turned around and asked. "It's none of your business." Huang Fuliang frowned, and a trace of anger flashed in his eyes. But when he thought about how Chu Hen died in his hands, he felt especially carefree. Then, Huang Fuliang snorted coldly and led the crowd away. Soon, only Luo Mengchang was left in the entire desert valley. She let out a sigh of relief, and a pair of beautiful eyes looked at the huge black fog in the valley ahead with a complicated expression. "To be honest, I really don't believe that you will die so easily." "Fine, I'll take the risk for you this once." Luo Mengchang's red lips moved slightly, and she muttered to herself softly. Then, she moved and dashed directly toward the huge mass of black mist and Een Qi. As she approached the edge of the abyss, Luo Mengchang's toes touched the ground lightly, and she leaped up like a spirit butterfly. Boom! Along with a particularly shocking power, a pair of illusory white light wings spread out behind Luo Mengchong. This pair of white light wings was surrounded by dazzling light patterns, and it was as holy as the legendary angel's wings. Buzz buzz! At the same time, the surging black mist of Yin Qi came crashing down like a huge wave. However, Luo Mengchang was unmoved, and a circle of soft light surged out from her body. Something amazing happened, and the domineering Yin Qi was blocked, unable to hurt Luo Mengchang at all. Swoosh. Chapter 265. The Li Valley was filled with a Yin aura. The environment was strange and gloomy like hell. It was filled with the presence of death. In the deep valley, an endless amount of dark energy surged wantonly. In the middle of the dense dark energy, 100-meter-tall giant ghost tree exuded a thick, monstrous, evil energy. Long, gray, python-like vines hung from the ghost tree. Something thick like a cocoon was bound to the bottom of the vines. Wrapped up by the life-seizing vines were the souls of those who had died of violent death. Bright, scarlet blood constantly flowed out from the cracks in the vines. It was extremely strange at first glance. However, there was only one cocoon that did not have any blood flowing out of it. What was different from the other vines was that this cocoon actually contained the presence of life that had not dispersed. God damn it, what the hell is this thing? Why is it so sturdy? Chu Hen cursed viciously. All he could do was stop and rest for a while. Currently, Chu Hen was trapped in a narrow space surrounded by the life-reaping vines. As all his limbs were bound tightly, Chu Hen was completely immobilized. The life-reaping vines tightened even more. If it was under normal circumstances, Chu Hen's bones would definitely have been completely shattered and his blood vessels would have burst apart. However, Chu Hen, who possessed the chaotic body, had a body far stronger than normal people. Coupled with the fact that he cultivated the flaming sun body tempering technique, a body forging technique, he did not die instantly like other people. After a short period of rest, Chu Hen's body once again erupted with a hidden force attack that was as ferocious as an undercurrent. A circle of golden-red illusory flame light rose from the surface of his skin, and the vines that bound his body slightly loosened. However, it was only slightly. It was still uncomfortably sturdy. These weird vines can suppress my power, Chu Hen murmured to himself. Nirvanic light. Hiss! In an instant, two beams of purple light shot out from the cocoon of vines like sharp swords, and the tightly packed vines were immediately cut open. The obstruction to Chu Hen's vision was immediately removed, and the area between his eyes and eyebrows was revealed. What came into view was the huge trunk of the ghost tree. Chu Hen was suspended about 50 meters above the ground. Above his head was the crown of the giant mushroom-like tree. 7 or 8 sturdy vines wrapped around Chu Hen, making it difficult for him to move. Buzz, then, a vigorous Reiki energy was released from Chu Hen's Naiwen Palace. Reiki energy was a power that originated from one's spiritual will. Even if one's body was restricted, one could still use it freely. Chu Hen's eyes turned cold, and several runes condensed in front of him. Under Chu Hen's control, the runes transformed into an illusory sharp blade. Swoosh! The sharp blade flew out like a flowing light, slashing toward the vines on Chu Hen's body. Bang! Along with a dull explosion, a layer of scattered air waves rippled in the air. The illusory sharp blade directly shattered, and the vines where the blade landed only left a shallow mark. It was not cut in the slightest. Sigh, Chu Hen helplessly sighed. Actually, this was not out of his expectations. After all, these vines were something that even Wu Xiu, who had a cultivation level of core transformation stage, could not destroy. Moreover, Chu Hen's attainment in Reiki energy was only at the level of a first-grade intermediate rune master. The strength of Reiki energy was equivalent to the first level of the natal opening stage. It would be strange if he could break these vines. Just as Chu Hen was thinking of a way to escape, a drop of ice-cold water suddenly fell from the sky and landed between his eyebrows. Ta! The cool feeling startled Chu Hen. Immediately after, a circle of gentle light spread out from between his eyebrows. At this moment, Chu Hen clearly felt the activity of the street tree in his Naiwan palace. This is... Chu Hen's gaze moved up and saw that there was a sparkling and translucent spirit liquid slowly flowing through the cracks in the bark of the tree trunk, tranquil spirit spring. Chu Hen's mind lit up. No wonder the Reiki energy in his Naiwan palace was so active. It turned out to be the tranquil spirit spring. There was a way. A pleasantly surprised glint flashed across Chu Hen's eyes. Soon after, without a word, he hurriedly controlled the Reiki energy and spread it out. The tranquil spirit spring in the crack of the tree was immediately attracted by the force and transformed into a tiny stream of clear water that gushed towards Chu Hen below. Buzz buzz, an extremely peculiar energy wave was released. Under the guidance of the Reiki energy, the stream of tranquil spirit spring directly entered between Chu Hen's eyebrows and into his Naiwan palace. Boom! In an instant, Chu Hen's Naiwan palace became abnormally restless. In the middle of the hazy and dim space, a dozen meters tall street tree was covered with strange symbols. The silver leaves were resplendent and dazzling. The stream of tranquil spirit spring surrounded the street tree and watered it. In the next instant, the Reiki energy emitted by the street tree became even more active as a vigorous vitality filled the air. The street tree rapidly grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it broke through the level of a second-grade intermediate rune master and grew towards a higher level. Feeling the Tao tree that was continuously becoming bigger and bigger, as well as the spiritual energy that was becoming stronger and stronger, Chu Hen was very happy. The power of the quiet and secluded spirit spring was really magical. Just a small portion of it was able to make the street tree grow so quickly. As long as he collected enough tranquil spirit spring, he would be able to rapidly increase the level of a rune master. He would then be able to use a higher-level rune technique to break the shackles and escape from his predicament. The heavens really haven't given up on me, Chu Hen. Huang Fuliang, once I escape, I will definitely make you pay me back double. Chu Hen thought coldly in his heart. However, at this moment, a bone-piercing cold wind suddenly attacked. Chu Hen's heart suddenly trembled as an extremely dangerous aura suddenly invaded his mind. Wah! What followed closely was that sharp and ear-piercing strange laughter. Chu Hen was greatly shocked, and before he could even react to what had happened, he suddenly felt an extremely evil and strong power barge into his Naiwan palace. Damn it! Buzz! The cold wind blew, but Chu Hen's Naiwan palace was in a state of turmoil. An incomparably large mass of black fog surged wantonly and invaded his Naiwan palace. Then, illusory spirits quickly came out of the black fog. The number of spirits was especially large. They were densely packed, covering the sky and covering the earth, numbering in the tens of thousands. These spirits were like evil spirits, and they quickly rushed towards Chu Hen's street tree. This sudden change caught Chu Hen off guard. In the middle of the Li Valley, a pit within a pit of tens of thousands, for thousands of years, countless spirits had gathered in this place of extreme negative energy, forming the huge ghost tree. Above the ghost tree there were also countless spirits. Spirits could kill people, and they could even devour the souls of others. Chu Hen's street tree was born to nurture spirits, so it was especially attractive to these spirits. And because spirits did not have a physical body, they could enter Chu Hen's Naiwan palace. If it was only a small number of spirits, Chu Hen would not care at all. But this number was simply innumerable, making one's scalp tingle and hair stand on end. In just a blink of an eye, Chu Hen's street tree was besieged by countless spirits. From head to tail, from top to bottom, the densely packed spirits completely covered the street tree. Chu Hen's Reiki energy was rapidly being devoured, and the vitality of the street tree was also rapidly decreasing. At this moment, Chu Hen had a feeling that a disaster was imminent. Once the street tree was destroyed, these spirits would devour his soul. Once the soul was devoured, the person would be completely finished. Sitting and waiting for death was not Chu Hen's character. Under such circumstances, Chu Hen could only do his best to refine and absorb the energy of the spirit spring, using the powerful energy in the spirit spring to continuously replenish the Reiki energy that was being devoured by the street tree. But the more Chu Hen did this, the more excited the spirits became. The reason was simple: spirits had a lot of limitations, and the energy contained in the spirit spring was beyond what they could handle. And now, Chu Hen was using the energy of the spirit spring to replenish the Reiki energy of the street tree. This was equivalent to a transformation in the middle. After the transformation, the energy was truly the power of the spirit, and this power was also within the range of what the spirits could handle. This situation was really a dilemma. If he did not continue to refine the spirit spring, the street tree would be devoured in an instant. If he continued, it would indirectly help the spirits to gradually become stronger. Chu Hen was extremely anxious. During the period of refining the spirit spring, he was constantly releasing Reiki energy to attack these spirits. Even though the spirits were destroyed by Chu Hen one after the other, there were still countless spirits that continued to charge forward wave after wave. Chu Hen, at this moment, a familiar voice suddenly came into Chu Hen's ears. The soft voice sounded ethereal in his ears, and like a spring breeze, it tugged at Chu Hen's heartstrings. It was Luo Mengchang. However, Chu Hen's eyes were closed, and he could not answer the other party at all. Now, as long as there was a single mistake, Chu Hen's Naiwan Palace would be directly attacked by the spirit. At that time, he would be completely finished. Under the spirit tree, the elegant and otherworldly Luo Mengchang stood under the tree like a fairy. Her pair of eyes that were as soft as water were filled with seriousness as she stared at Chu Hen, who was being entangled by vines and suspended in the air. Although she did not get an answer, Luo Mengchang was very sure that Chu Hen was wrapped up by the vines. Outside of Chu Hen's body, there was an extremely thick yin qi. Within the yin qi, there was a constant sound of a ghost that made one's scalp tingle. The spirit tree did not attack me. It seems that it is using all its strength to deal with Chu Hen,